an American Sunrise Early Edition by the slimmest of margins. The big, beautiful bill passes the Senate thanks to Vice President Vance's tie-breaking vote. Now, the tax-cutting and border and defense-boosting measure is back in the House, where it just cleared another key hurdle. President Trump wades deeper into the New York mayoral race, backing Eric Adams over Democrat communist Zohran Mamdani. Which is easier? Is it hurting the Republican cats voting on the budget bill, or getting enough New York voters to see the light? We shall see. But wait, the president isn't done yet. He announced last night that Israel has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. Now he's waiting on Hamas to agree. Good luck with that. He's also warning the terrorist group of dire consequences if it doesn't. In Idaho today, a judge will decide whether to allow the guilty plea deal made by mass murderer Brian Cobberger in return for avoiding the death penalty. At least one of the victims' families is furious over the deal, but will the judge hear their call for justice? And everyone noted just how weird this Jaguar rebranding ad was a few months ago. Oh, it also didn't show any cars. Now wait until you hear the sales figures. Yikes! American Sunrise Early Edition begins now.
Welcome to American Sunrise Early Edition. The show where faith, freedom, and the values that built this nation take center stage.
Your good deeds and bad deeds. That's how we're going to judge you.
Join host Jake Novak as he breaks down the stories that matter.
We will be letting the public know regularly what we have found.
American Sunrise Early Edition with your host, Jake Novak, starts now.
Welcome to this Wednesday here on American Sunrise Early Edition. I know everyone here watching, you're just crazy to insist on your right to have a good night's sleep. So when you do that, you miss some of the latest developments. But don't worry, a lot of us do get up early and prepare a program for you so you know what's going on. And joining me right now is the jewel of the Boston Harbor, the Countess of Cape Cod, and okay, I've run out of Boston area titles. It's Grace Curley from the Grace Curley Radio Show. And Grace, I know you wake up early. You have a little one too, so you probably don't even get to sleep late when you have a day off. But Grace, they got this budget bill through the Senate. It did just clear the House Rules Committee, so it's kind of before the whole House right now. Do you think this thing will get signed, will get passed and signed? And I got to ask you, do you think it should get signed and passed? Because everyone's got a right to have a problem with a big bill like this, I guess.
Yes, I think it will. I've been optimistic since the beginning, and there's definitely reason to be optimistic now after J.D. Vance broke that tie in the Senate yesterday. And all signs point to the idea that it's moving pretty quickly. And yes, I think it should be passed. I've been on this program before, Jake, and we've talked about the need to make something happen if you have the power. People voted for this agenda from President Trump, and they're not going to be satisfied with, well, we didn't really get anything done because we didn't want to raise the deficit. That's just not going to work in the midterms. I think Trump's right. The political liability here, if we do not make sure that these Trump tax cuts are made permanent, is just, it's bigger than I can really explain for a lot of these Republicans. Obviously, they felt the same way. And so it's looking good. I'm excited.
Yeah, look, politically, pulling the plug on spending in an abrupt way doesn't work. And I learned that the hard way. For many years, I was Mr. Fiscal Conservative. I still am, but a real evangelist, I guess, about that. And then you learn that really a better way is to grow the economy, grow opportunities, and then slowly wean people off of these kinds of government benefits. If you pull the benefits, you will never win another election, and all the other good things that you want to do won't happen, and a lot of bad things like open borders for 4 years will happen, and that's the way it works. So that's my segue to open borders. Grace, I've talked a lot about how big spectacles, like a huge wall, like an Alligator Alcatraz, are actually needed to deter illegal aliens, because a lot of it has to do with the undeniable welcome mat that was thrown out by Biden and Obama. And you need to have something just as abrupt showing people that the door is closed right now for illegal aliens. But I want you to hear this comment from the acting director of ICE talking to President Trump. And I want you to guess why I'm playing it for you. Here, listen to this.
Just first, on behalf of the men and women of ICE, we just want to thank you for allowing us to do our job again. your vision and under Secretary Noem's leadership, this is what the American people want. And I hope that you see great results of what we're doing out there every day, getting the worst of the worst out of our communities. Because of you and Secretary Noem, I have the privilege to lead one of the most premier and the finest law enforcement agencies that we do have in the United States. And the men and women of HSI and ERO Miami do incredible work like you highlighted. And with the governor and the state of Florida, the partnership in Florida has been amazing. The 287G program is only going to help us to identify all those known gotaways and get the worst of the worst out of the neighborhoods. And through our Homeland Security Task Force, we are going to make America safe again. So thank you very much to both you and the Secretary.
All right, Grace. Am I nuts, or did I hear a rarity in American politics? I heard a real Boston accent coming out there. Okay, I also looked it up. ICE Director Todd Lyons, he's totally from Boston. You don't hear that kind of an accent very, but I think there's a good Boston mentality. You were on top of this, how ICE was so active a couple of months ago in Boston, especially. But I think he made the point there. He's speaking about the actual people in the field in cities like Boston finally getting that recognition and the help from the president that, I don't think they received for many years, even under other Republicans, let alone Biden and Obama.
Yeah, it's so funny. We're so proud of Todd Lyons, and it's funny you bring up his Boston accent because he sounds like all of my family. So it wouldn't even have registered with me. I don't even hear it. But as far as the job he's doing, he's an incredible man. He comes from a great family. He actually his dad has a really incredible history as well in the Vietnam War, and creating a monument here at least in South Boston. And so we're so proud of him. We're like his cheerleaders, and to see a politician, or I'm sorry, not a politician, but a leader, to see someone who's in the political world, at least because of his leadership skills, who's not a rabid liberal nut, is so refreshing. And he's been doing just a really great job at getting the word out and explaining to people here in Boston how critical it is that we get these illegal aliens off the streets. A lot of the people here in Boston, a lot of these illegal aliens have very dangerous rap sheets, and there are so few people, the mayor, the governor, no one seems to want to address that fact. They keep telling us how they're making us safer by keeping these criminals here. And so we have at least one fighter in Todd Lyons, and we really appreciate it.
I think if we let the country be run by Gen Xers from Brooklyn and South Boston, it'd be a better place. But that would make for a good new political party. Maybe Elon Musk can create that party. Grace, I know you've been following the New York, speaking of Brooklyn, the New York mayoral race, and this out-and-out communist Zohran Mamdani. As it turns out, he's also a sloppy communist. You were among the people who pointed out that he had been claiming that there's $140 million that the city is spending on private grocery companies. No, actually, that was a misreading. That was actually a consortium of people who are donating money to help fight hunger. This guy is sloppy, but will it be enough, you think, to defeat him in a general election? I got to say, it looks tough to me. This whole chessboard looks rough to me.
Yeah, it's so... How do I put this? Well, first of all, if you were offering to run a private company and you made this kind of fuzzy math error where you said, hey, we're going to have this big plan, and then you get in there and you say, okay, let's implement my plan, city-run grocery stores, and it turns out the $140 million that you were going to use for that doesn't exist, that's a big problem. And there's been a lot of great reporting on it, and it wouldn't fly in the private sector. But hey, this is politics. You can get away with a lot more. But something, Jake, that I know you've been speaking about and that I find very disturbing is there's more focus on trying to decide or classify Mamdani as like a socialist or a communist, or would this work, or the problem with city-run grocery stores, and that's all valid. But really, what I would think would be enough in New York City with such a high Jewish population is some of the radical stances that this man has taken against Israel, refusing to condemn the slogan, globalize the Intifada. The fact that isn't just immediately a non-starter for voters in New York is frightening to me.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping for some of these Hasidic rabbis and Haredi rabbis in Brooklyn and in Queens just to tell their followers to vote en masse against him. And I don't think they voted in the primary. So let's see if that makes a difference. Grace, you're so good on trials. You often cover trials, not just locally, but nationally. And I'd love to get your take on this situation in Idaho, where a judge today is going to be reviewing the plea in the Brian Cobberger case. As you know, he has accepted a guilty plea in return for not getting the death penalty. And the prosecutor did not consult with all of the families before making this deal. And at least one of the victim's family members is outraged by this. I got to tell you, though, that one good thing about this that I do like is now there won't be a trial, as much as I'd love to hear a commentary about a running trial again, because that's just a little bit less publicity for this guy, because I think that's why he committed the murders in the first place.
Yeah, this is so awful to hear about and to read the statements from these family members who are just, I think the word that one of the families used, which really describes this, is re-traumatized. This is an abomination. I feel horrible for them that they've gone through this for so many years. And now when they finally think that they're going to at least have a little bit of justice and be able to find out what really happened, that this kind of bombshell is just dropped on them out of nowhere. The question of how much they knew about it or whether or not they were consulted about this or asked about this is still kind of up in the air. But I have read that there was a real lack of transparency here. And I just can't imagine, you go through the initial pain, which is unimaginable to most of us, when you lose a family member in such a horrific way. And then this egomaniac spends 2.5 years like toying with these people like they're mice and he's this cat. And then for the prosecution to kind of give him exactly what he wants at the last minute, it makes your stomach turn. And I really hope that this is rejected. I don't think it will be at this point, but I'm always an optimist, and I'm holding out hope that the outrage that we're hearing from these families is enough to change this before it's made official, because it's unacceptable. And that's not how the justice system is supposed to work.
Yeah, well, you know what, folks, everyone watching, there is something you can do about this. When he inevitably comes out, when they inevitably come out with the book about this, with the True Crime Podcast, don't download it, don't buy it. That's why this guy committed the murder. And if you boycott this, then maybe the next guy who does something like this or wants to do something like this won't, because he won't see as much of a ego boost from it. That's really all I can say. Grace Curley, want to end on a happier note. It's Wednesday, but it's really like Thursday because we got July 4th coming up. So have a great weekend. July 4th in Boston is pretty awesome. So I can't wait to see you again, but have a good long weekend.
Yes, the Countess of Cape Cod is heading to Cape Cod on Thursday, so I'm very excited to see the fireworks from the Cape. Thank you, Jake. Have a great weekend as well, and happy 4th of July.
Thank you so much. All right, coming up, now that Senator Tom Tillis is bowing out, get ready for a big fight to save his Senate seat for the GOP, and really get ready for the big money to pour into the Tar Heel state. You won't believe how much. And it's an end of an era. The era of hidden payoffs and unaccountable nonsense, that is. The U.S. Department AID is officially closed down, but the building may live on. I'll explain when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back. It's a live shot of the Capitol where they've been working around the clock for once. The latest on the big, beautiful budget bill. You know that it passed the Senate late yesterday, and now overnight it got through the Rules Committee in the House. So now it is before the whole House. The issue, though, is I don't think there are enough votes yet to pass it. They're going to have to work on this for some hours today. We'll see how this goes, but it did clear another key hurdle while you were sleeping, I hope, if you keep decent sleeping hours. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. A special welcome to you on Getter and Rumble, you guys are already watching, you're commenting, and you're up and at 'em today. Secretary of State Marco Rubio made it official. The USAID office has officially been closed, and now foreign aid decisions will be made entirely by the State Department, with the Secretary of State and the President ultimately responsible for every penny. They say sunlight is the best disinfectant, and this is like a solar farm. We're going to find out a little bit more about where the money is going now, and there will be people who are accountable. Of course, the Secretary of State is not elected, but the President is, and the President can easily take care of problems with the Secretary of State. This, I think, is a positive development. Now, the building that once housed the USAID office, may get a new tenant really quickly. It could be the FBI. That's because the president is ditching plans for a costly move for the FBI to another headquarters in Maryland. Now he wants to keep it in D.C. and put the FBI in the old USAID building. FBI Director Kash Patel said yesterday he backs the plan and he believes it's the best cost-saving option. Why not? President knows real estate, so you might as well let him do some of the office rearranging in the nation's capital. All right, now that North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis has decided not to run again in 2026, the sweepstakes are on to find a strong Republican candidate to replace him. Now, a lot of President Trump supporters favor his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, for the job. She's actually from North Carolina. I think she's living in Florida now, but she's got a long history in North Carolina. Other Republicans, like Michael Whatley, who's the current chairman of the RNC, and the former chief of the North Carolina GOP, he's also expected to run for this. Not a lot of people love him because he's so connected to Tillis, so this is going to be interesting. I think most of the Trump supporters really, really like Lara Trump. But, no matter who runs, this is shaping up to become one of the costliest elections ever. How do I know that? Because I know from the state's history, when Thom Tillis first ran and won this seat in 2014, that election broke the record. It became the first U.S. Senate race to top over $100 million in campaign spending. People were shocked. It was a big deal. I wrote about it 2014 in a column and talked about how $100 million, as shocking as that sounds, even 11 years ago, was worth every penny to the people donating that money. And I'm sorry to say I was very right about that. Thom Tillis was absolutely at the behest of his donors, no matter whether they were right wing, left wing, or whatever in the middle. He's proving that this week by going on his own, and I guess sort of making his donors happy. Maybe one of them will hire him after he leaves the Senate at the end of next year. But folks, this is going to be a big one. If it was $100 million in 2014, expect a $200 million price tag in 2026. That's my prediction. Okay, we are days away from what has been dubbed the Rio Reset. That is the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, that's Russia, China, India, Iran, and many more, are expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering its value. They've already been laying out the groundwork, as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. How can you protect your IRA or 401k from the fallout from this landmark shift? Diversify with gold from Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. Get a free info kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word America to 989898. July 6th, coming around the corner, it marks a monumental shift happening among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings. Text America to the number 989898 and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Okay, coming up, the Trump war on Fed Chair Jay Powell just keeps getting hotter. And now, the president has a pretty decent wingman on his side. American Sunrise Early Edition will have that story for you in 2 minutes. Okay, we're still looking at live shots of Washington, D.C. this morning on American Sunrise Early Edition, but we moved from the Capitol to the Jefferson Memorial. Now, I don't know if this is still true, but in the 1980s, the Jefferson Memorial was kind of like a lover's lane. It was a good makeout spot. I'm just telling you this right now. I don't know if it still is. Maybe someone in D.C. can tell me this. But these are the things that we should all be thinking about other than just annoying bills on Capitol Hill all the time. Come on, you got to live a little. You cannot live on budget bills alone, my friends. Let's also take a look where the markets will begin today. Pretty good numbers. The Dow was up more than 400 points yesterday. The Nasdaq down a little bit. Looks like we're going to keep that trend going, with the Dow going to open up higher. The Nasdaq just a little bit down, really flat. Gold is up, and I can tell you right now, if this budget bill passes, gold will continue to go up for a while because more spending means that gold becomes more valuable against the dollar. Crude oil is up. We're up at the $66 a barrel mark. That's a little higher than we've been. We've been at 64, 65 for a while. Still, very low number for crude oil. Now let's take a look at Bitcoin. Again, still in that 104 to 110 window, but at the higher end of it now, almost at 108,000, up 2% and change, 2 1/3 basically, so far today. So Bitcoin edging up higher as well. Hey, the mainstream media gleefully reported all day yesterday that Fed Chairman Jay Powell was saying something about how, well, he would have cut rates by now if it weren't for the Trump tariffs. So every headline in every mainstream media, including some financial media, websites and newspapers and TV shows, were all jumping up and down about how, hey, look, Jay Powell's telling you it's Trump's fault that you don't have lower interest rates. Well, that's even though the tariffs actually haven't even done anywhere near the damage to the economy that people like Jay Powell and other people said it would. It hasn't boosted inflation. Inflation continues to go down. Now, pushing back on that comment was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He says Powell is suffering from full-fledged tariff derangement syndrome. Sounds like Trump derangement syndrome. It's a little bit of both. Scott Bessent is becoming one of President Trump's strongest wingmen in going after Jay Powell, and he made the same point I've been making for a long time, both here and in other programs here on Real America's Voice. If Jay Powell cut interest rates last year, just before the election, when inflation was higher, why isn't he cutting them now? he doesn't really have much of a leg to stand on. That is the biggest issue to present with the folks who say Jay Powell is doing the right thing. He either made a mistake in November or he's making a mistake now. Either way, he's making a big mistake. All right, the price of beef still has you pretty upset, has me upset. I can tell you that right now because it just won't go down. Now, imagine how Walmart feels about it. They feel your pain and they're decided to do something about it. In a new effort to do something, the number one brick and mortar retail giant in the world, Walmart, is opening up its own cattle farm and beef processing plant. Now, the newly opened facility, it's in Kansas, of course. It will distribute Angus cuts to 600 stores across the Midwest region. Walmart's going to look really close at the results for a while to see if it should open another place like this in other regions of the country. Hey, beef prices were up 8.6% in May compared to a year ago. Inflation's going down in so many sectors, not beef. And I got to tell you, I'm not looking forward to buying my hamburgers for my July 4th barbecue. I'm looking forward to eating them and grilling them, but buying them, not so much. All right, the moment we all knew was coming has arrived. A new report says robots at Amazon facilities are just about to become more numerous than the human employees. But don't just shed a tear for the blue-collar workers. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy also recently said that AI technology is likely to reduce thousands of white-collar positions at the company, too. But think about this, folks. The people who replace the humans at the warehouses are now going to be replaced by AI at their desks. I guess that's karma. Here we go. That's progress. All right, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Okay, everyone. Now, a few months ago on this program, I showed you this creepy Jaguar commercial. I showed it to you and I had a little bit of a pop quiz about it. I said, what is missing from this commercial? I mean, what isn't missing is it's weird. It looks like an updated version of that show HR Pufnstuf from the 70s, for those of you old enough to remember that one. But I asked you a question, what's missing from this commercial? And the answer was cars. They don't show any of the product here. They're showing these weird folks in dresses and so I don't know what's going on in that commercial. But I know I'm not seeing any cars. Well, guess what? Jaguar isn't seeing any sales. This commercial, which was used to rebrand the company, was just one of their many missteps. Let me tell you how many cars Jaguar sold in all of the European Union in April. The answer, 49. Jaguar only sold 49 cars in all of Europe in the month of April. In case you're wondering, that is a 97.5% decrease from the year before. This kind of weird rebranding didn't work. They didn't show any cars. You knew it on this program several months ago when I showed you this ad that they were in big trouble over at Jaguar. But I didn't think they were going to be in this much trouble. I mean, this is almost non-existent. 49 cars. There are a lot of countries in Europe, and they only sold 49 cars. I can't get over that number. But if I can't get over it, how would you like to be one of the accountants at Jaguar? They really can't get over it. Okay, it's a much better story over at Ford, where the company reported a 14.2% increase in sales from April through the end of June. Now, that was much better than almost everyone forecast. Remember, this tariff derangement syndrome isn't just for Jay Powell. It's also for a lot of the analysts who analyze a lot of our companies, especially the auto industry. They were expecting losses, some of them, from Ford, let alone a 14.2% increase. Now, a lot of that had to do with the employee pricing deal that regular buyers started to get in April. So they lowered their prices, absorbed a lot of the tariff costs, but the tariff costs actually didn't come that badly to them anyway. And then they were able to boost their sales significantly. Now, there were other big winners in the last few months in the auto industry. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because they were telling us that all of the auto industry, especially the foreign car makers, were really going to take a dive. Again, not so much. Kia and Hyundai reported their numbers for that middle 3 months, April through June of this year. Kia was up 8% with their sales, Hyundai up 10% with their sales. By the way, those are all-time highs, and it's compared to a year ago, not compared to earlier in the year or some bad time in the past, just a year ago. So honestly, again, I'm not saying the tariffs don't have some effect. There's a lot of companies that are still scrambling. But again, President Trump is making deals quickly to kind of lift a lot of the tariffs on a lot of products and countries. And as long as that process is going on, there's a chance for companies to avoid the biggest problems, and the consumers are coming out and getting these deals. Jay Powell needs to look at this. I don't think he is. Now, those numbers are good, but I can't wait to see how well the sales are going to look, how good sales are going to look for BMW and a particular one BMW model, the BMW M2 CS. Now, BMW says demand for this sporty coupe has forced it to increase capacity significantly. The hottest markets for this car are in the US, China, and their home country of Germany. Now, here's what a lot of the buyers like. The 2026 M2 CS has a twin turbocharged 3.0 liter straight six engine, producing 523 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot from a little coupe. People like that. It's not all SUVs, especially for some of the gearheads out there. They like some of these performance cars, and they're getting a lot in a smaller package here. And so this car, I'd love to see how much its sales rise and look when those stats come out, probably in a couple of months. All right, here's another new car to talk about. Ferrari unveiled its new car line called the Amalfi yesterday. Okay, let's talk about its power. It has a 631 horsepower twin-turbo V8, 4 seats, and it will be the most affordable Ferrari out there, starting at just $283,000. But I have to say something about the name of this car. They called it the Amalfi, and for those of you who know about the Amalfi Coast, everyone talks about the Amalfi Coast these days. That's what they're naming it after. If you've ever talked to anyone at a cocktail party lately, they'll tell you how they went to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. I know it's beautiful, but it's kind of like a little buzz place for people to talk about. Every 10 years or so, there's a new hot place that people are going to. I remember it was Anguilla a couple of years ago, that kind of thing. Now it's the Amalfi Coast, and Ferrari is jumping on that and calling their car that. It's expensive, but less expensive than other Ferraris, and I have to admit, it looks good. Okay, coming up. One very courageous student at an Ivy League school, he challenged the administration to justify its bloated staff roles a few months ago. And now he's been very much vindicated, at least in my opinion. We're going to check back in with him in 2 minutes when American Sunrise Early Edition continues. It's Wednesday, July 2nd. Here are some of the top stories this morning. By the slimmest of margins, the big, beautiful bill passes the Senate thanks to Vice President Vance's tie-breaking vote. Now, the tax cutting and border and defense boosting measure is back in the House, where it just actually cleared another key hurdle. But a full vote isn't definitely a decisive one yet. We don't know yet. President Trump wades deeper into the New York mayoral race, backing Eric Adams over Democrat communist Zohran Mamdani. Gotta ask you, which is easier, herding the Republican cats voting on the budget bill in D.C. or getting enough New York voters to see the light? It's a toss-up, I think. But wait, the president isn't done yet. He announced last night that Israel has agreed to a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. Now he's waiting on Hamas to agree. Good luck with that. But he's also warning the terrorist group, Hamas, of dire consequences if it doesn't agree to this ceasefire. And everyone noted just how weird this Jaguar rebranding ad was a few months ago. Oh, it also didn't show any cars. The result? Jaguar only sold 49 cars in all of Europe in April. Yikes. American Sunrise Early Edition continues now. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. It's Wednesday, and no, I still can't get over the 49 cars. I mean, I really think I might be able to sell 49 cars if I tried to make them in my garage in Europe. I think I could do that in a month. It's possible. Jaguar, not so much. Unbelievable. Welcome back. Again, it is a Wednesday, and joining us now is Brown University student and student activist Alex Shea. And Alex, I want to remind our audience, got to go through some graphics and some pictures for them. First, I want to remind them about your work. For showing you this stunning article first that came out about how you challenged administrators at Brown University, your school, to explain what they do, Doge style. And they tried to discipline you for it just for asking. Okay, that's part one. Part two, now Brown, like a lot of other Ivy League schools, is facing cuts in its federal funding. So its own president in this document has clearly admitted that there's some fat to cut in the staffings. This was a paper he sent out to everyone, Brown, I guess, alumni and students and parents. And he talked about how he was going to need to cut some staff. So kind of admitting that there's some bloating. Now, before I ask if you're vindicated, I want to show everyone your ex-post from, I guess, yesterday, where you highlight and circle some of the comments, the key passages, and your commentary about how, you were right all along. Okay, so I'm going to let you do a little bit of a victory lap here. But Alex, as much as I love talking with you, it isn't just about you. This is an epidemic that many of us have been talking about for a long time. Luckily, you came along and you were able to put it in a lot less boring fashion by sending this email out. How do you feel about it? And by the way, do you have a handle now on how many extraneous people there are, Brown, in that administration? Maybe you have a number by now. I don't know.
Absolutely. There's a ton. There are 3,805 non-faculty staff members at Brown University. So we're not talking about professors or people that actually teach classes. We're talking about administrators, people who are deans, provosts, whatnot. And there are a lot of these people, and it's not clear what a lot of them do. And it's looking increasingly likely that a lot of them are going to have to go. And this is for multiple reasons. One of the reason is the pressure that I'm putting on them. I sent out this email and this investigative reporting, and they tried to discipline me, but actually I was found not guilty of any of the wrongdoing. But it looks like their disciplinary investigation against me is actually going to be backfiring as well. You didn't mention this, but earlier last month, I testified before Congress, a congressional committee, on antitrust violations in the Ivy League, including Brown, why tuition prices are rising, why financial aid packages seem to never be enough, and how Brown, among other schools in particular, is exceedingly wealthy. Half the students are from the top 5% of earners. And I just think that's insane. And that's not how the American dream is supposed to be, because these schools are supposed to be places where smart kids can go and they'll get financial aid and it will be enough and they'll be able to get a better life from there. These are supposed to be sort of purveyors of social mobility. But with all the administrators and all the bloat, that's increasingly not the case. But two new developments besides the announcement from the president that they might be cutting staff is that, number one, the House Judiciary Committee, whom I testified before, has requested from Brown all of their internal email records about the disciplinary case against me, because they're saying it's silencing students who are asking about tuition. And I think that's correct, right? Is that this is a very salient issue, and that the deans who investigated me, they should be looked into at the fullest. But then just yesterday, Brown was actually subpoenaed for all of their information about financial aid, because the House thinks that there's some fishy stuff going there and not giving students the aid that they deserve. And I think they're onto something. And so all these factors at play seem like it's going to be pushing Brown into a place where they really need to do more to make their education more accessible. And they just can't have these many administrators on the payroll. It's not financially feasible. And finally, they're going to have to do something about it.
Alex, I'm more than 30 years older than you are. So I know I still kind of sound ancient when I say this, but let me tell you something. There was a time in America, even when I was a little kid, when most college students were paying at least some of their way through school. So this is not a hypothetical or just a make-believe question that I'd like to ask you. My theory is so many of the kids who go to these schools, whether they're wealthy or not, are not paying their way. They're either getting a full scholarship because they're very destitute, or their parents are paying, which is the case, I think, with most kids right now. We call them kids. Back then, you didn't call college students kids necessarily. They were more mature and they were having to pay their own way. I'm not saying you're not mature. You're certainly an exception to the rule. But paying your own way will get you grown up real fast. I have to ask you, if most of your classmates were paying their own way through school or a significant amount of their tuition, do you think you would be this loner, this lone wolf that you've become at Brown? I think that there would probably be a lot of other Alex Shees out there asking, hey, why am I paying so much money for all these bloated positions and things like that? I mean, this is a byproduct of having a third party pay for someone else's education, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. And I think that Brown, part of the reason why you're seeing so many people are so upset at me that I'm pointing this out is that they don't understand that at Brown, at least, tuition is like $93,000 a year. And that's an insane amount for a person to pay. And of course, if they were paying that themselves, that they would be outraged. But again, it's also an effect that just, again, half of Brown is from the top 5% of earners, is that we're looking at a predominantly wealthy student body here, where legacy students get like special privilege, where the children of donors get special privileges. And that's not meritocratic. And of course it's not meritocratic, but that seems to be why a lot of the people who are at Brown don't seem to have a problem with these inordinate sums. And you mentioned, right, is that there are those wealthy kids who can pay their full way. And then there are the kids who are of lower income brackets and they get full financial aid from Brown. But then there are the kids in the middle who get left behind. They're not able to go to Brown because they earn a bit too much to get those full scholarships, but they certainly don't have enough that they can pay $90,000 a year for a school like Brown. And so really the middle class is the one who gets hurt the most and gets left behind by this bloat and these exceedingly high prices.
All right. Now, this is a story that goes well beyond just college education in this country and your situation at Brown, because I think the American people, thanks to President Trump, have started to understand the amount of money that the taxpayers are pouring into these wealthy schools. Even if they produce policies and pursued agendas that were more popular, it still would be a scandal that so much tax money is going into these schools. So, of course, Harvard is in the crosshairs right now. There's some other schools that are about to get back into the crosshairs, by the way. But Harvard, with its $53 billion endowment, has decided over and over again not to comply, not to make even the smallest changes. I know that there's some cultural things that will be harder for Harvard to change, but for them to enforce the civil rights for some of their students and to protect the civil rights of their students wouldn't really cost them that much. It wouldn't be that hard, but they keep refusing to do it. Do you see a similar obstinance with Brown? I mean, the fact that they're basically, they tried to discipline you rather than make some changes. And I think we're seeing the same thing with Harvard. And now the taxpayers are involved, right, Alex? Because we're paying for a lot of this.
You bet. Exactly. I think that's why it's always been an argument that's felt kind of flat to me is, hey, this is not a state school. These are private schools. They can do whatever they want. Well, I mean, they get a whole bunch of taxpayer money. So you're saying the taxpayer doesn't get a say about how their money is being paid? Of course, that's preposterous. And then many of these schools are just doing things, again, which are patently illegal, like discrimination. That's not legal. That's against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And stuff that they're doing with price fixing and collusion with other schools in setting financial aid prices, and that's not legal either. That's an antitrust violation, whether you receive taxpayer dollars or not. And I guess I just think that it's time that they be held accountable. Ideology aside, is that a lot of these schools and these university presidents go around thinking that like they're better than the masses, and it doesn't matter what regular Americans think, is it just matters because we're supposedly the elites, right? These are elite universities, and sort of just this attitude of ignoring what normal students and parents and Americans think, and sort of in favor of this elitist ideology. That's why prices are so high. It's because the elites can afford to pay it, and I think it's wrong. I'm a big proponent personally of, again, meritocracy. So I'm against DEI. I'm against legacy admissions. I'm against anything that isn't like judging people based on how smart they are, on what they can accomplish for a school. And I think really it's a shame is that that these schools are overfilled with privileged rich kids, because I think, first of all, they're probably not all the smartest. And second of all, it's taking away opportunity from poor kids who could really be making a better life of themselves if it weren't $90,000.
Yeah, and I think also the admissions process, and I know you were involved in this controversy as well, with that case against Harvard, where they created these phony metrics to try to keep people like you out, keep other people like out who really had worked at it. Listen, I think we all agree there's never going to be a perfect meritocracy. Humans aren't capable of that. But when you stop trying to achieve it, good freaking luck. You don't want to be in a situation where someone is deciding based on something other than your efforts how you get rewarded in society. That's a scary, scary place to be. What's the feeling of students? I mean, you were actually on campus. I'm talking about it from 30,000 feet. What are some of the other students like? I mean, I assume some of them are probably brainwashed by faculty and years of media influence and things like that. But are there other students who, beyond their political leanings, sort of see through this and talk about it with you?
I mean, there are a bunch of students, and I mean, even students on the left tend to sympathize with me, because I mean, this used to be their issue, right? Is that college affordability crisis? It's cost too much. And I think it's just so funny in recent years how many of these people on the left have sort of abandoned this issue of making education more accessible, more egalitarian. I thought that was something that they were fighting for, but apparently not. Apparently, at the end of the day, they're with the colleges who are setting these extreme prices and are getting subsidized by the taxpayer and are still inordinately expensive. But again, yeah, there are some people who have support, but those people again are far and few between. If you look at the composition of a campus like Brown, there are a few libertarians and conservatives. I consider myself to be a libertarian, but I think the overwhelming majority of students are somewhere on the left, whether that be like MSNBC liberals who like Biden and Kamala, or people who are even further left than that, and they want to they think like Israel is genocidal and stuff like that. And so really it's just that's the main divide at Brown is like the normie liberals and then sort of like the socialists. There aren't really that many people to whom even considering President Trump or any of these sort of more libertarian policies is even on the table for. I think that's really a shame. It's because for all this talk about diversity, there doesn't seem to be a lot of diversity of opinion.
That's right. Well, I'll give you a hot tip. If you want to see some diversity of opinion, religion, and everything else like that, you got to go to the sports teams at the Ivy schools. That's the only place you'll probably find it. Alex Shi, congratulations on being vindicated, and thank you so much for your work and being courageous. I see a bright future for you. I wish all the students were like you, but I'm glad you're around, and we're going to check back in with you in the coming months. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up, another Ivy League school is making a very big mea culpa. And hopefully it will have as much of an impact as it did when that school made the big mistake in the first place. David Brody and I will discuss when American Sunrise Early Edition comes right back. we had a rainy afternoon and overnight here in New York City, and you can see the effects of that. Still people with some umbrellas. I see one person there in Times Square as we look at that live this morning. Should be a lot of tourists in the city for July 4th weekend. I hope it remains safe. I hope we don't have any stupid demonstrations. I hope people enjoy themselves. And the weather looks like it's going to be pretty good, so that's awesome. Welcome back to American Sunrise Early Edition. It's Wednesday. I'm Jake Novak. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. That's from the Bible, folks. And for the people who have spent almost 5 years pursuing justice for female athletes at the University of Pennsylvania, the Ivy League, and all over America, justice is now being served. That's because the University of Pennsylvania is reversing its trans athlete policy. Why is this important? Because this is where this nonsense started several years ago when one of the swimmers on the men's Penn swim team declared himself transgender, switched over to the women's team, and suddenly started winning Ivy League and NCAA championships, boxing out women who had worked for years for their recognition and to be not only on the team, but to succeed. And then, of course, we had people like Riley Gaines at other schools talking out about this and on down the line. Well, as part of a deal with the Trump administration to save its taxpayer funding, Penn has now decided to ban trans athletes in their sports program and rescind, take away those records that Leah Thomas succeeded at gaining because basically he was a man competing against women. David Brody, you texted out to our group yesterday saying this was huge news. I couldn't agree more. What does this mean to you, this decision? Obviously, we're not college athletes. I don't know, maybe you were. I'm not, but I did, and I still do, cover a lot of college sports, especially in the Ivy League. And I can tell you, I feel vindicated, and I also feel very relieved.
Yeah, well, first of all, the only college athletic event I'll participate in is binge eating. So let's get that off the table. Is because, we talk a lot about politics, but I care a lot more deeply about the culture of this country and the fabric of this country. And this strikes right at the heart of it in a good way this time. Look, I mean, first of all, let's not congratulate University of Pennsylvania here, okay? They were dragged kicking and screaming at this. They violated Title IX. It was a civil rights violation. And they would never have done this if it weren't for Trump. Trump has a way of bending people to their knees. And I love that, especially when it comes to the culture stuff. Look, Leah Thomas, that's what he calls himself. His name is William Thomas. He has decided to go by Leah Thomas, but let's not be fooled. And, kind of just a quick little tangent, a little aside, but if you look in Wikipedia and all those places, right, you see that it's Leah Thomas and they talk about she. And then not only that, they never mention anything at all about the transition process at all. At all. It's just like she was born in 19 whatever it is or 2000 whatever it is. And they do this for all of the transgender folks out there. So obviously that's all inaccurate. Anyhow, really happy about this, and most importantly, happy for the female athletes who finally get what they deserve, which is recognition. And I know it comes late, and I know it doesn't come in the form of maybe a medal ceremony or anything like that. But if you look on the Penn website, you do see their name at the top of the list there rather than William Thomas's name. He is no longer. He is gone from the records. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we can talk about the mental health issues and we can talk about personal rights, which I'm basically for, but not when they infringe upon others, especially others who have worked so hard for recognition. And you are really being anti-woman if you decide that a man can decide 100%. To be a woman anytime he wants. All right, the big show coming up next. I'll see you in the 9 o'clock hour.
American Sunrise is a great way to start your morning. Join us Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We've got the news of the day and some compelling interviews that you don't want to miss. Here's what you missed from yesterday. Senate has been dealing with this vote-a-rama on different amendments and that kind of thing to the one big beautiful bill. It's been going on almost 24 hours at this point. Just want to give you some bullet points here. The Senate is set to reconvene officially in full at around 9 o'clock this morning. Earlier this morning, in fact, there was a record-breaking 45th Amendment or procedural vote. That, again, is a new record. And Vice President J.D. Vance is now on Capitol Hill, should he be called on to have to cast the tie-breaking vote. So there's a lot happening, and David, all eyes are on Capitol Hill, specifically the Senate side.
So Rand Paul and Tom Tillis, they're no's. So that means you can only lose one more. They may lose Murkowski. That would be 3. If they lose and J.D. Vance breaks the tie, and it's okay. But if they lose Susan Collins, that's 4, and that's the end of the bill.
They have shortened the debt ceiling that he was so uncomfortable with. That's a big one with him. That's a big one with me. I've been yelling about the debt ceiling, honestly, for more than a decade now. And right alongside him, that's one thing I think a lot of conservatives agree with him on. Why do we have this massive debt ceiling? Why do we even call it a ceiling? I always call it a circus tent, because it's not really a ceiling if you can just blow it up all the time, right?
We've got to have some sort of conference with the Senate to come out with a bill that we both agree on. And so that puts it well past the July 4th arbitrary deadline that the president has set, and us in Congress. Look, I've said all along, if we don't have deadlines, we don't get stuff done in the U.S. House of Representatives. So I think the deadline was a good deadline. I don't know how feasible it is at this point, but we will keep charging towards that goal.
Thune could have gotten rid of the parliamentarian. All you had to do is replace her or ignore her. He's not required to listen to her. This is something that was put in the 1930s. It's not constitutional, the parliamentarian. Who is she to decide? One person gets to decide for 335 million people what we spend, don't spend, do or don't do? That's not how it's supposed to work. Unelected, Harry Reid, the ghost of Harry Reid, rearing its ugly head 13 years on. It's pretty frightening.
Jerome Powell, he's on his way out. We all know that. Trump was looking for a replacement. His term ends in May of next year, but that's not happening. What do you think is going to happen? Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, says, if he needs to do it, he'll step in and be Fed chair. What do you see happening here, sir?
Most of the Fed chairmen love them or hate them in the past, and there was one woman, Janet Yellen. They were at least consistent in their policies, pretty much. Again, not always, but a lot more consistency than we're seeing from Jay Powell, and that's where he's in big trouble.
Yeah.
Ahead on American Sunrise, the Senate has now passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, and now it's back with the House awaiting approval and delivery to the president's desk. Will we see any more surprises? We've got a couple of congressmen coming up to talk more about that. The very latest view from Capitol Hill is ahead. Plus, President Trump is back home at the White House after braving mosquitoes in the South Florida humidity while touring Alligator Alcatraz on Tuesday. So, what can we expect from this new illegal immigrant detention center? And border czar Tom Homan says CNN needs to be prosecuted over its reporting on ways illegals can avoid ICE officials. Those stories and so much more as American Sunrise starts right now.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
We have breaking news to share with you.
politics,
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
we've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Gina. Welcome to the show. We are live with you from the Palm Beaches. Let's bring in David Brody in Washington, D.C. and T. Bates in our Denver newsroom. You know, sometimes you put on an outfit in the morning and you think you're looking kind of cute. And then you get on screen and you're like, okay, I look like I'm on a self-discovery journey. I'm not. I discovered all there is to discover about myself. It's really not that exciting. But my outfit is a little loud this morning. But it's good to see the two of you. And it's going to be a great show. Terrence.
It is absolutely going to be a great show, Dr. Gina. I'm just going to put it out there. I still think you're very cute. I think you got it going on, girlfriend.
Oh,
so you're doing your thing.
Thank
You're
you.
all right
Makes
with
two
me.
of us.
Thank you.
Another thing that's got it going on is this one big beautiful bill. Of course, as we mentioned at the top of the show, it has now passed the Senate. Now House leaders are going to be debating it, probably starting today. In fact, there are some holdouts right now that House leaders are trying to rally. There are also reports that House moderates are worried about Medicaid. Conservatives are worried about increased deficit spending. I'm just worried in general, David. How do you think all of this is ultimately going to play out? I think the conventional wisdom is that ultimately it's all going to work itself out.
I think that is true. Ultimately, it's going to work itself out, though there's going to be a lot of potholes ahead. There's no doubt about that. The latest this morning is that a lot of folks, a lot of congressmen, congresswomen are having a hard time getting back to D.C. The weather here has been awful, but beyond all of that, across the country, it's been bad. So there was talk first of this actually being voted on today in the House. But now it appears it could slip to tomorrow. They might not have enough folks to get that bill passed back into D.C. in time. So we'll see about that. But look, my count, because, you know, I'm a geek fest here, and I'm looking at spreadsheets and all that. I've got 7 no's so far on this bill. They can only afford 3 if everybody shows up on the Republican side. They've got 7 no's. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene right now is a no. Andy Harris, the head of the House Freedom Caucus, is a no. Eric Burleson, our good friend here on the show, he's a no. Tom Massey, well, hello, we know he's a no. That's 4, and there's others. And then there's like 20 that are pretty much leaning no. Now, I'm assuming all those will go ahead and eventually flip, but those 7 are interesting, and I'm sure 6 or so will flip as well. But we'll see. It's going to be very, very dicey. By the way, one quick point of order, if you will, literally a point of order. Chuck Schumer did something so petty yesterday. I don't know if you saw that. They changed the title of this bill. It was called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That was the official title. Schumer raised a point of order and they changed it. They changed it. It's now called the Reconciliation Act of something. Anyhow, he struck the One Big Beautiful Act language from the bill. That will no longer technically be the title of this bill. I mean, give me.
Doesn't it sound a little bit, though,
break.
David, like that's giving up? I mean, that sounds a little bit to me like,
yes,
I think this bill's going to pass. I don't want the president to have his imprint of a One Big Beautiful Bill on it. So I think I'm just, in my giving up, I'm going to go down screeching. I think that sounds like a very promising thing for President Trump, as far as I'm concerned. David, I wanted to ask you, though, really quickly before we move on, what will change the most amount of those votes? What will flip them? What's the single issue? Is it the spending? Is it the Medicaid? What is it?
The problem is, for Republicans and Mike Johnson, it's different things for different people. And that's really the matrix here. Whether it be, it's not so much SALT anymore. We're going to talk to Congressman Randy Weber. I'd be curious to get his take on this. But, obviously Medicaid is an issue. The spending cuts. Look, the House was promised $2 trillion in spending cuts. This Senate bill that they're going to vote on eventually, because they're not going to make any changes to the Senate bill at this point, is going to be $1.5 trillion. So they're short of the $2 trillion that they wanted. I mean, I remember Congressman Byron Donalds telling me that it had to be $2 trillion. And now it's not going to be $2 trillion in spending. It'll be $1.5 trillion in spending cuts, not spending. Yeah. So, there's a lot here to sift through. But
well, CBO still got to go, in my opinion. But let's check out today's Bible verses. From Deuteronomy 33:27. The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He will thrust out the enemy from before you and will say, destroy. You guys, the battle's not flesh and blood, and we don't fight alone. And I love that so much. The Senate voted to pass President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. 3 Republicans voted no, as David Brody said, and they were Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, and Maine Senator Susan Collins. Vice President J.D. Vance had to break that tie. Here is what Senate Majority Leader John Thune had to say. Take a look.
Mr. President, it's been a long road to get to today. More than a year ago, groups of Republican senators and staff began meeting to lay the groundwork for extending tax relief for hardworking Americans if we were given the opportunity. Mr. President, voters gave us that opportunity. And since we took office in January, Republicans have been laser focused on achieving the bill before us today. And now we're here, passing legislation that will permanently extend tax relief for hardworking Americans. Mr. President, that will spur economic growth and more jobs and opportunities for American workers. That will rebuild our military, secure our borders, unleash American energy, and cut waste, fraud, and abuse in federal programs.
For more, let's bring in Texas Congressman Randy Weber. Congressman, you have an up close and personal view. I love Terrence asked you before we came in. He said, so I trust you made it safely back to the swamp. And you said, I don't know what's safe about it, but yeah, I'm here pretty much. It does seem like though things are looking like it's going to pass. What do you perceive is the biggest hurdle at this point?
Well, there's thanks, Gina. Thanks for the scripture, by the way. This Dr. Gina, I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys being up. After all, we are a Christian nation, founded on Judeo-Christian principles. But anyway, y'all didn't get up this morning to hear a sermon. Back amen. But back to your question. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. I think one of the things foremost and first that members need to think about is we need to extend the 27 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the tax breaks, so that businesses can grow. We need to be preeminent in energy around the world. Our military needs to be stronger. Now, guys and ma'am, lady, gals, I started in Republican Party politics when Reagan ran for re-election in '83. I became very active in Brazoria County, precinct chair, election clerk, election judge. And we talked back then about the federal government's waste, fraud, and abuse. And y'all, we are finally getting to the point where we're going to do something about that. I'm very encouraged by that. Is everybody going to get their way? No. For Pete's sakes, I'm a husband of almost 49 years. I don't get my way. I don't get my way all the time. So I would hope that our fellow members in the House, now that the Senate has pretty much done their job, handed, if you will, the gavel off to us, why don't we come together and let's get this thing passed? Look, we can make adjustments going forward in the future. This is not the end of the world, in spite of what the Democrats say.
Well, that's a good point, actually. Speaker Johnson has talked about budget reconciliation part 2 at the end of the year. There's no doubt about that. So let me, Congressman, let me understand the way this is going to work. So the Rules Committee, the House Rules Committee voted last night, barely, 7-6, to proceed to have a vote on the rule this morning. So obviously the way it works, as you know, right, the rule first, the vote on the rule first, then final passage. So do you think this, when do you think this vote on the rule will come up at this point? Do you think it'll happen today? And, I know there's a lot of concerns about this Senate bill. Is it going to just be voted on as is, or are there going to be any amendments to it? Is this, you're basically taking the Senate bill and saying, let's just get this done?
Well, you know, David, the problem, what was it Yogi Berra said, the problem with predictions is you're dealing with the future. Number one, as y'all rightly pointed out earlier on in this broadcast, I guess, how many people are going to make it here? I was on a plane from Houston yesterday, was supposed to leave at 2:30 and wound up leaving about 6:30. Storming, as you know, was extremely bad here yesterday. How many people actually get back to the House? And you have to know this, the whip team, the speaker, and all of us really that are paying attention want to make sure we have the majority here, that we have people here to vote on this. Will it be today at 2 or 3 or 4? And by the way, I shouldn't tell you all this, but today's my 72nd birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
I'm an old timer, and I remember what the old Aggie philosopher once said: "Not to worry about too many birthdays, because after all, he who have most live longest." So I think that makes sense. Will it happen on my birthday? I would love to get back to my beautiful bride for 4th of July. But that's going to depend, David, to your question on how many get here today. And you know this, the leadership, especially the whip team, is going to be going around talking to members and saying, look, we need to all come together on this. We're about waste, fraud, and abuse, doing what's right, moving forward, extending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And we'll see if we can get that done today.
Based on what you said, I get the sense that you are a yes vote. You want to get this thing over the finish line and onto President Trump's desk. But I'm curious if you've had any conversations with some of your colleagues who may be holdouts, who may have concerns, and what the substance of those conversations may have been. I don't need to know names. I just want to know about the conversations.
Right, I got you. We call, there's a lot of people get called names up here. I hear you, Terrence. But to your point, we've had those conversations. And look, it does increase spending a little bit. It is a long-term solution, if you will. But as I said, and as you rightly pointed out, David, the speaker's already said we can do more reconciliation. The first thing we've got to do is we've got to, what was it, the Wizard of Oz, the Scarecrow said to Dorothy, it's always best to begin at the beginning. And so this is a beginning, cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, and let's get this started, and we can tweak it going forward.
Get this party started. All right. Well, Congressman Weber, we appreciate it. We hope you get back home to your bride of 49 years, I think you said. Congratulations on that. Happy, happy birthday to you. Thanks for taking time out of your special day to come on our show and make it even more special. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you all for being America's real voice. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
All right. Coming up, we check out the hottest headlines, not those cold ones, but the hot ones from the RAV newsroom with T. Bates. And later, we here at RAV always aim to bring you the latest on the situation at the southern border. And our own Ben Berquam is going to join us with a live report just ahead on American Sunrise. News you won't hear anywhere else. So don't go away.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping. This news break is brought to you by AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens.
All eyes on Washington, D.C. this morning. The big, beautiful bill vote potentially happening today in Washington. We'll see if the weather cooperates. It might happen tomorrow. Welcome back, everybody, to American Sunrise. I'm David Brody. Coming up, we're heading to the border. No, not Taco Bell. We're talking about the actual U.S.-Mexico border. Donald Trump in Florida yesterday talking about Alligator Alcatraz. So we're going to talk about that and the border and how it all fits together. And it does. T. Bates, though, is standing by with the latest headlines from the Real America's Voice newsroom, sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
The ball is back in the House's court as the clock ticks down towards the July 4th deadline to get the one big beautiful bill on President Trump's desk. A vote is expected to happen as soon as today.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
You just heard it there. The measure passed in the Senate on Tuesday with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote to get the measure over the finish line. 3 Republican senators, Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, and Susan Collins, voted against the measure, forcing the vice president to vote. Republican Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski voted for the measure, but is now encouraging the House not to vote on the tax and spending package and instead return it to the Senate. Quote, "My hope is that the House is going to look at this and recognize that we're not there yet." In the meantime, House Speaker Mike Johnson appears confident that the one big beautiful bill will soon be law.
We're estimating the average American will have an additional $10,000 take-home pay because of this. You will have no taxes on your tips and on your overtime. Seniors will get a reduction in taxes because of a credit they'll have, those on Social Security. There's something in this bill, literally, as the president said today, for everyone. It is great policy and is going to help the economy, help the American people, and fulfill the promises of the America First agenda.
And at the White House, President Trump raising the prospect of a 60-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. He brought it up Tuesday in a social media post saying that Israel had agreed to a deal to stop fighting. Hamas reportedly saying it's open to reaching an agreement, but any initiative must clearly lead to the complete end of the war. A Hamas delegation is scheduled to meet with mediators from Egypt and Qatar, today in Cairo in order to discuss the proposal. Posting on X, Israel's foreign minister saying a majority within Israel's coalition government support an agreement that sees the release of the remaining hostages held by Hamas in return for a ceasefire. We'll, of course, be monitoring this developing story for you throughout the show. The University of Pennsylvania does an about-face, or rather, a backstroke, when it comes to allowing transgender women to participate on its women's sports teams. The university is also removing the records of Leah Thomas that were set en route to winning an NCAA Division I national championship in swimming. Thomas is a former UPenn swimmer and the first transgender woman to win an NCAA D1 title. The Department of Education found that Penn violated Title IX by allowing Thomas to join the women's swimming team. The university now has to award Thomas's titles to the next place finisher and personally apologize to each impacted swimmer. There's still no word, though, yet from the NCAA about whether it will rescind Thomas's 2022 championship. However, the organization has since banned transgender women from participating in women's sports. That's a quick check of your headlines. We'll, of course, have more headlines coming your way, including Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy refusing to give Donald Trump credit for a decrease in illegal border crossings. Stick around to hear his comments. First, though, a quick look at this day in history. It was on this date in 1937 that Amelia Earhart and her co-pilot Fred Noonan disappeared while flying over the Pacific Ocean. They were en route to Howland Island. Noonan was declared dead the following year. Earhart was declared deceased the year after that. Neither their remains nor their plane have ever been found. The most widely accepted theory is that they ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific Ocean near Howland Island. Another theory is that they were captured by the Japanese and held as prisoners, potentially dying in captivity. However, some suggest that they landed on a remote island and perished as castaways after surviving for just a short while. There have been numerous expeditions to try to locate Earhart's plane and remains, but none has yielded concrete evidence. To date, the fate of Amelia Earhart remains one of history's mysteries. More American Sunrise, coming your way in a moment.
Houston, Texas. It's already 80 degrees there. The humidity is 86%. The dew point, I don't know the dew point. The point is, it's really hot. And the heat index, I think it's going to be like 95 today, and the heat index is going to be like 107. So good luck. Welcome back to American Sunrise. President Trump toured the new Florida illegal alien holding facility, of course, is now known as Alligator Alcatraz. I love that name. Trump praised Florida for getting it done. Take a look.
And it's a great honor to be deep in Florida, the Florida Everglades, to open America's newest migrant detention center. It's incredibly built, and you're seeing that yourself. That's why I said, let the press join us on our walk so they can see what's happening. It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country where they came from. Quite a few. We're amazed at actually the number. We took the FEMA money that Joe Biden allocated to pay for the free luxury hotel rooms, where he's paying hundreds of millions of dollars in New York City, and we used it to build this project. And Ron, it was just a little fraction of that money.
You know, we here at RAV always aim to bring you the most up-to-date information on those issues and stories that matter to you, especially on the southern border. And of course, that means it's time to cue RAV correspondent Ben Berquam, who's always in the thick of it somewhere in America. He joins us now live from Houston, Texas. Ben, great to see you. So, by the way, sorry about the humidity. Not that I have anything to do with it, but apologize about that. It's going to be a bad hair day. Just an FYI.
That's what hats are for.
Yeah, well, thankfully I get to fly out of here, but it is hot in Houston. And if you saw my interaction yesterday with the leftist communists, it's so hot you need more ice in Houston. So just pass the word. We need more ice in Houston, not less ice in Houston. But it is. I'm on my way. I was just down in McAllen, Texas, heading up to Iowa to join President Trump at the Iowa State Fair en route. But, great news. The President Trump doing what the American people elected him to do, what the mandate elected him to do, and that's put American citizens first, not use our FEMA money to import more illegals, but use our FEMA money to get them out of here if we're going to use it for anything.
Ben, the Department of Defense designated an area along the Rio Grande National Defense Area for border security. Officials say these areas are aimed to bolster border security. Some responsibilities will be handled by the Joint Task Force Southern Border working with Northern Command. There was another border zone that was connecting Fort Hancock and El Paso. How effective do you think these zones will ultimately be, Ben?
It all depends on consequences. And this is, I rode with La Jolla PD yesterday. The day before yesterday, I rode with Border Patrol yesterday. I spoke to Sheriff Martinez down in Brooks County, and they all three said the same thing. Consequences are what matter. And so if this defense zone is used to immediately deport illegals or used to keep illegals out of our country to begin with, we use our military to do that job to combat the cartels, then it will be an absolute success. If it's what, Joe Biden did, if it's what many people have done before, where they send the military down there and they basically handcuff them and don't let them use force, use their weapons, do anything like that, then it will not be effective. But I believe President Trump, just like we've seen everywhere else, it's one of the most ingenious strategies I've ever seen. You've got that, that thin layer, that strip along the border that the federal government controls. By turning those into military bases, the rules of engagement change. And so it's just genius to me. And it just points to the fact that President Trump is not just a good president, a great president, he's just a very smart guy when it comes to solutions to problems.
Ben, in just a moment, I'm going to play you a clip from Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, and I'd like to get your reaction on that. But first, I'd like to get your thoughts on how Florida seems to be leading the way in terms of working alongside the federal government to secure our border and to help lock up and deport some of these illegals, specifically by deputizing local and state officials in order to allow the federal government or help the federal government to do its job as well.
Yeah, that's one of the keys. So what we're seeing is this progression, basically a multi-stage approach to the problem. And we saw it initially with the convergence of all of the federal agencies working together. We'd never seen that before, going after the worst of the worst. Then phase 2 of that was bringing in, expanding Operation 287G, which deputizes sheriff's offices. And you can do police and any law enforcement across America. That's stage 2. And now they're going into this stage 3 with the military. They're also going to be looking at other options when it comes to increasing the speed of deportations. They're working on that as we speak. So it's an all-layered, multi-layered, multi-agency, every option approach. And I think it's the only way we're going to deal with the problem. 20 million illegals in our country right now. The only way you're going to have even an opportunity to fix a fraction of that is you have to do everything possible in every arena possible to be able to get them out. But it also points to, and I know you're going to bring up Chris Murphy in a minute, it points to why 2026 is so important. If we don't get more in the House and more in the Senate to back up President Trump, these executive orders won't be permanent. We have to make these things permanent.
All right, well, you mentioned it, so let's play this clip from Chris Murphy basically refusing to give President Trump and the administration any credit for what's happening at the border. Here it is.
Well, I don't give them credit for that because border crossings are low because they're violating the law every day. So we have a law in this country that says if you are fleeing terror or torture from another country, you can come here and apply for asylum. The Trump administration has suspended that law. They are not allowing anybody to come here to apply for asylum. We wrote that bipartisan bill last year to reform the asylum process, to make sure that only the right people are coming in and that we judge those cases expeditiously at the border. So it's true, there are very few people crossing on a daily basis, but that's because the Trump administration is violating the law. And it should matter to every American that on so many facets, the Trump administration doesn't care about the law. This is becoming a lawless administration. We are on a road to see our democracy atrophy to the point that it will be unrecognizable. And the border is just one example of many ways in which this administration doesn't care about the law anymore.
Ben, 30 seconds.
Chris Murphy's an idiot. They violated the law. They allowed millions of illegals into our country, and President Trump is fixing it. That's it.
And that was 7.5 seconds, Ben. We appreciate you, as always. Please go grab a towel, do something, whatever aesthetically you need to do to get through the day.
Or come on down to Florida where the humidity might have it beat.
Ice, baby.
Ice, there you go.
Ice, baby. That's right.
Thanks, Ben. Great to see you. Thank you. Okay. Oh, my
All right, guys.
Coming up, well, there he goes. Goodbye, Ben. Coming up, new weight loss drugs are being worked on that reportedly don't have the awful side effects of shots like Ozempic. How effective could they be? Well, find out. We're going to have that answer next on American Sunrise here on a Wednesday. It's Hump Day.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping.
This is Dallas, Texas. Probably almost as humid as Houston. Maybe not. I don't know. Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. G. Thanks for joining us. Time now for today's health news, sponsored by the Wellness Company. Under the microscope today, a new weight loss drug. it says it has fewer side effects than Ozempic and Wegovy can cause. So GLP-1 drugs have changed the game when it comes to weight loss, but some have some side effects that are just hard to deal with, like certain gastrointestinal issues, hair loss, among others. But now there's a new drug. This drug is being tested. The first difference is that the new drug is a tablet, unlike the shots used for Ozempic and others. And it is showing weight loss without some of the side effects. One expert says it could be used for weight loss all by itself or in combination with the shots. I'm not sure how that would work, but that's good news for some who are struggling with the side effects. A new administration in Washington, D.C. brought a lot of positive changes when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system, but there's only so much government can do, and if we really want to make America healthy again, that's going to have to start at home, and that's where the Wellness Company comes in. You see and hear from their doctors all the time on this network. You know their products are the gold standard for keeping you safe and healthy. The Wellness Company gives you the opportunity to make sure you are prepared for whatever happens with their series of prescription medical kits. These kits have an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks that assist in the proper use of the meds in the kit. Additionally, Wellness Company offers a variety of products from parasite cleanses to methylene blue to weight loss and so much more. This can help you stay healthy and live a longer and more satisfying life. Make America Healthy Again starts at home, so do your part. Protect the health of yourself and your family. Go to twc.health/RAV today. Give it an order. That's twc.health/RAV. Use the promo code RAV. That'll save you 10%. David Brody. D-Bro. David Brody.
D-Bro in the house. I'm calling myself D-Bro, which is really the height of narcissism, if you think about it. I mean, that's horrible. All right, Dr. G. There's nothing more. It's just Dr. G. That's all. She's like Oprah. It's Dr. G. That's all you need to know. All right, as we have been reporting throughout the show, the House at this hour has the budget reconciliation bill back after the Senate passed it yesterday. That would be the big, beautiful bill. Vice President J.D. Vance had to break the tie in the Senate to get it done, but it is done now. Speaker Mike Johnson has to get it through the very narrow majority that he's dealing with in the House. For more, let's bring in the chairman of the Fort Bend County Republican Party in Texas. He's also a host of the 13-minute news hour, Bobby Everett. Bobby, good to see you. So I was just looking here at the latest, came across about 60 seconds ago. The House now is saying they're going to vote on the rule to the underlying bill at around 11 a.m. this morning. Then they're going to take a break. And then at about 12:30 p.m., they're going to vote on final passage of the big, beautiful bill. We'll see. I know there are a lot of folks still trying to get to D.C. for this vote, so I'm not quite sure if that timing will shift back a little bit. What do you make of it? Because I count 7 no's right now, but those no's somehow find a way of becoming yeses at the last moment.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I think this rules vote, this the first thing you're going to see, maybe some protest votes, people trying to make a statement. But there were as many as 20 being rumored opposing this bill. Yeah. I think the hashing out and the negotiations and the problems that had it on the Senate side, I think emboldened some of these House members as it's coming back to the House to take a stand on the budget, the deficit, things like that, really cost cutting and savings that we kind of wanted and demanded from the November election. Now, I'm all in favor of the big items that we need. I mean, obviously, we want to keep President Trump's tax cuts in place. That would be a huge tax increase on the American people and really hurt the economy. We want the border. We want the energy policies. We want Medicaid and SNAP reformed. But, in that vein, we also want a change in the business as usual or the uniparty or this one-party government that the American people rejected. We want something different, and we want to bring cost savings and an awareness of the budget. And so that's where these have come to a head. And so I do think it's going to be passed, but I don't know if we don't have to take it into a conference and hash out the differences. I don't know if it's going to happen today.
Also, Bobby, taking center stage, some would say perhaps upstaging the big, beautiful bill, is the feud between President Trump and Elon Musk. Musk said anyone who voted for the budget reconciliation bill will lose a primary next year and should hold their heads in shame. Trump then responded, saying Musk is only mad because of the EV subsidies, and added that Musk might have to leave the country and head back home to South Africa without them. Oh, Bobby, this is definitely a battle royale between two alpha males who are very used to getting their way. Who wins?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, this goes back, we go back in time to last month when this all dusted up again. And, you know, the polls, the Twitterverse and everything, they all certainly came down on the side of President Trump. They're going to back him no matter what. But Elon is a hero to the movement. Let's be clear. I mean, Doge and going for waste, fraud, and abuse, identifying it and getting rid of it is kind of one of the hallmarks of this new administration. And I can see his frustration. You know, he's not used to the political wheelings and dealings. And I say good for him on that, because we need a leading voice to point that out. But to see them battle each other and to keep upping the game, you know, it started with Trump saying that, you know, he's going to go after Massey. And then Elon says, well, I'm going to protect Massey. I'm going to fund his campaign. So I think this might escalate a little bit more. But once we get through this bill, I think it'll die down and get back to normal. But right now, you don't want to see those two feuding.
Yeah, but Bobby, there's a difference between pontificating on X and legislating as president of the United States. And, you know, he needs to understand that, and he knows that, and yet he doesn't care. That's my problem here. I mean, if he was in President Trump's shoes, literally President Musk, dare I say, it's a whole different calculus for him. I mean, Trump is as principled as they come, but he also is dealing with a reality in the House and Senate to get this agenda passed that has a lot of good things in it. So, I mean, I don't know. I just have an issue with people that just pontificate all the time and don't have to do the serious job of legislating, especially President Trump. Even though he's not legislating, he basically is legislating in a way.
Well, right. Yeah. And David, I see your point, because even at my level, you know, as a county chairman, as elected official in my county, you still have to deal with various factions and try to bring people together and get things done. And it's a whole lot different than being on the outside and just saying, hey, I want this, and this is how it's going to be. The other side is bad. You do have to come together. You do have to negotiate. And again, like you said, there's great things in the bill. So yeah, it's good to keep the awareness that we always want to have the budget in mind and the deficit in mind and the debt. But we do know with these slim margins, I mean, it was a tie-breaking vote in the Senate yesterday. We only have about 3 votes we can give away in the House side. So we need to come together. We need to get this done and keep some of those negotiations maybe in the back room and push for real change. But don't let it, put this vote in jeopardy.
Yeah, I think whenever you see things like this that just don't make logical sense, like you both were saying, there's something a little deeper. We've heard all the speculation out there about Elon getting sideways perhaps with some of Trump's closer staff. So, you know, it could be something like that that has made this extremely personal for him, because the rest of it just doesn't make sense, Bobby. I think you're right. He's got to know, and David too, he's got to know this, you know, President Trump can't make an edict and say,
yeah, and by the way,
he knows that. He's smart enough to know that.
And to your point, Gina, because I really think you're onto something, Stephen Miller was on Fox last night just ripping Elon Musk. So, look, there's some bad blood.
It's become
here.
personal.
It's
become
personal.
And I don't even think it's between Trump and Elon. I think it's between Trump's staff and Elon. So that's makes it even more interesting. We'll follow the drama. Bobby Everly, thank you for being here with us today. Have a great Independence Day.
Thank you.
Coming up, actress, Charlize Theron. I don't know how to say her. Theron. They've said it on all of our production calls, and I still don't know how to pronounce Theron. Slammed those who attended Jeff Bezos' wedding. How was that received? We have the answer next here on American Sunrise.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. We appreciate you being here with us. Do you want to drink cafe quality coffee at home without the price tag or the compromise? Well, 1775 Starter Kit is packed with value and built for people who care about what they support. You'll get 3 bags of coffee, 2 16 ounces of your choice, either dark or medium roast. Plus, you'll get their longevity blend, which is infused with anti-aging CAAKG, clinically shown to support healthy aging and reduce biological age. You cover 2 bags. 1775 covers the rest. That's a full 16-ounce bag of coffee plus premium gear, a matte black tumbler, a frother, a gold scoop, or a reusable K-cup filler. Whether you drink whole bean, ground, or pods, it's your call. You build your bundle. The coffee is organic, it's single origin, high altitude, and small batch roasted. It's smooth, clean, no jitters, no crash, no bitterness, just really, really, really good coffee. All of that for less than $1 a cup, and it's made with integrity, delivered with purpose. Head on over to 1775coffee.com/Rav and grab your starter kit while it's still available. All right, let's get you back over to Emily Finn now. Emily, I hope you've got your cup of coffee ready.
Oh, I have been drinking coffee all morning, Terrence. I am certainly caffeinated here. Thank you for sending it over to me. It is time to stay awake, not woke. And who is woke today? Actress Charlize Theron. Theron has come under fire for her remarks about those who attended the Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez wedding. Theron said the people who attended the wedding stink, and the only cool people were at her fundraiser for her charity. Social media users slammed the actress and said that she was jealous she didn't get an invite. Others said that she just wanted to score the billionaire. For more, let's bring in David and Terrence. You know, you guys, I had to laugh a little bit at this headline because I had the same kind of reaction as Charlene. I think the people that attended that wedding stink as well. I'm kind of sick of hearing about it, Terrence. I don't know about you.
Well, I suspect that if you could afford to go to that wedding, you probably could afford some pretty good perfume, so you may not stink. But going to the wedding itself, like, I'm over it. You know, the fact that we're still talking about this and the fact that Charlize Theron is talking about this, I'm sure she has bigger fish to fry. And there's something else where she could have put her attention. Kudos to her for having a fundraiser. Stick to that and move on. Like, I'm just really disinterested, David. I'm sorry. Maybe I should be more interested.
No, that makes 2 of us. That's the daily double of disinterest. You know, color me blind, or color me blind. What am I talking about? Color me shocked is what I'm trying to say. That celebrities and jealousy are in the same sentence, by the way. But on a separate note, I think of Charlize Theron 0 minutes throughout my day, and I think of Jeff Bezos 0 minus 20, which is negative 20, I believe, if I'm doing the math right, minutes per day. So good luck to all of them. I don't really care. I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope they just go and bathe in their millions and trillions, and I don't care. That's my view.
All right. I think we all are in agreement on this one. You guys, moving on from the Bezos wedding, and we still have a lot more coming up for you on American Sunrise. A very exciting programming announcement for our Rav family. That's coming up next.
created the heaven and the earth.
That is such an Old Testament voice. I love it. Welcome back to American Sunrise, everybody. All right, time now for our moment of faith. It's brought to us by Lee Greenwood and the God Bless the USA Bible. In focus today, look, so we here at RAV have some very exciting news. Coming soon is a new network called Real America's Faith and Family. And here's a little bit of what you can expect. Have a look.
This is the year of breakthrough. This is the year of fruitfulness. Take a praise break.
From the creators of Real America's Voice comes a new network for such a time as this. Real America's Faith and Family.
Victory has a voice.
Get ready for dynamic speakers.
I believe God.
Live events, music, and more.
We're going to do Bible studies. You'll get prayer support. We'll have webinars. God is real, and He is listening.
This is what this nation is founded upon.
God is not done in America.
And it starts in our home.
Everything you need to keep faith alive in your heart and home.
And He'll give you the strength to do it. I believe that.
No matter what happens in the future, because of Jesus, we have hope.
And the devil can't do anything about it.
Join us for the launch of Real America's Faith and Family, coming soon.
Well, that got the adrenaline pumping. For more, let's bring in the host of Revival Today, which, by the way, you can see weekends here on RAV right there, Sunday, 9 a.m. That would be evangelist, pastor Jonathan Shuttlesworth. Jonathan, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. This Faith and Family Network on RAV is going to be really game-changing if you think about it. And I haven't seen the full lineup, but I can guarantee you Rachel Maddow will not be hosting a show, Pastor.
I was kind of hoping we would get to talk more about the Jeff Bezos wedding, but if you want to go with Faith and Family, I'll be your guy.
Let's go Faith and Family. Tell me more. It's exciting.
Rachel Maddow won't be there, but I have the same haircut, so it's close enough. Real America's Faith and Family is coming on at a critical time in America, I feel like, because there's a massive influx of people coming to church, and there's revivals breaking out all over the country, and I can't see that doing anything but intensifying. I'll tell you one thing, David, that I found interesting. There's an old preacher that gave a prophecy in 2015. I was in the service. He said, when you see the United Nations leave the shores of the United States, that will be the sign that the move of God's in full swing. And you saw that when the big, beautiful bill passed, one of the things they're doing is cutting all the funding to the UN and pulling out of all the treaties, which I feel like is setting the stage for that. So I feel like it's a great time to launch a channel that's not just going to show, repeats of people's programs, but we've been doing live programming all week in a packed church, healings, miracles, show people that there's a real God they can call on.
Amen. And, it really is for such a time as this. I remember being really kind of majorly bummed out when I saw the Rainbow White House with Obama back in 2015. And of course, everything under the Biden administration and all the woke stuff and all of the culture going to, let's be honest, hell in a handbasket. It felt like America 180. And here we are today, and there's been a resurgence. And I felt like we needed to go one step back to go two steps forward. And I feel like people are waking up, and that is playing right into exactly where God wants us to be, which is searching for Him.
That's right. And I couldn't say it any better than you said it. I feel the exact same way. As troubling as it was when Biden went in, looking back, you can see it was the best thing that could have ever happened, because it's like all of the evilness of that agenda got exposed. I think that regime thought they would be in power forever, and they had no fear of exposing how wicked they were. And it really woke the American people up, and people started to pray. And God said, if my people that are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, and I will revive and heal their land. And that's what's happening right now.
There's something about milquetoast faith, this kind of generic faith out there, like, oh, okay, yeah, the big guy upstairs, or a generic God. But I noticed in our promo there on Real America's Voice, Faith and Family, the word, the name, Jesus, was up. He is a game changer, a life changer, and a way maker, as they say. And I'd like you to just maybe talk about that distinction, because people need to understand that to have a real robust faith, and ultimately a life in heaven with Him.
There's an MMA fighter that said, well, I don't pick just one religion. I treat it like martial arts. Just take the best of each religion. But you can't do that. Jesus said in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. So he's either a liar or he's the only way to heaven. And he said, if you don't believe me because of what I say, then believe me because of the work that you see me do. For I will rise from the dead in 3 days. Well, that's not a Bible fact. That's a historical fact. Jesus rose from the dead and proved he was the Son of God. And he's changing hundreds of millions of lives all around the world today. When people call on him today, his power changes their life. So like you said, if you leave it generic, I believe in God, big guy upstairs, higher power, you're going to miss it. There's a name that's been given whereby you must be saved, and the name is Jesus.
Amen. He's either a liar, lunatic, or Lord, that book.
That's right.
We know the answer. Pastor Jonathan Shuttlesworth, great to have you. Once again, Sundays, 9 a.m. here on RAV. And we've got, of course, the Real America's Voice Faith and Family Network coming soon to not a theater, but a streaming device near you. Pastor, thanks again. Appreciate you.
Thank you, David.
All right, back with the second hour of American Sunrise in 2 minutes. Stick around, everybody.
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA. The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound King James Bible also contains America's founding documents, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, along with a handwritten chorus to Lee Greenwood's song, God Bless the USA. With its large print and slim design, this Bible invites you to explore God's Word anywhere, anytime. The God Bless the USA Bible makes the perfect gift and cherished family heirloom keepsake to pass on to future generations. Designed for an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation, this large print Bible is perfect to take to church, Bible study, work, and for traveling. Order yours today at GodBlessTheUSABible.com.
Ahead on this second hour of American Sunrise, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill passes the Senate and now faces a potential fight in the House as the clock ticks down towards Friday's self-imposed deadline to get the measure on President Trump's desk. Congressman Andy Ogles of Tennessee joins us to discuss. First, though, friend of the show, Carrie Lake, will be here with reaction to what's happening on Capitol Hill. We'll also ask her about the challenges she's facing in her new position as senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media and head of Voice of America. Plus, Elon Musk is promising to start a new political party if the budget bill ultimately makes its way to President Trump and is implemented. Sour grapes are a viable solution to the gridlock in D.C. It's a question we're asking throughout the morning. We'll take a look as this second hour of American Sunrise starts right now.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
we have breaking news to share with you.
Politics.
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
We've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of American Sunrise. I'm David Brody, coming to you from the humid deep state. Let's bring in Dr. G. She's in West Palm. T. Bates in our Denver newsroom. A busy Wednesday. It's a busy day every day. But this day, guys, even more so. We know the House has the BBB, right, the big, beautiful bill. My understanding is they're going to vote around 11 a.m. on the rule for the bill, then final passage later this afternoon. Of course, all the lawmakers are trying to get back into town. The weather's been a problem. They might have to delay it. And, Dr. G, what I'm hearing now is that President Trump is holding meetings at the White House with certain Republican members that are concerned about the bill at this hour, including the House Freedom Caucus. So a lot to sift through this morning.
Yeah, you could almost tell. Yesterday, I was watching him walk through Alligator Alcatraz yesterday with Ron DeSantis and Kristi Noem and the rest of them. And you could almost see President Trump, I guess knowing him and watching him for as long as I have and being a student of human behavior, I was watching him. I could tell. He was like, all right, let's go. I could feel that he wanted to get back to D.C. He wanted to get back behind the Resolute desk and do his job. I could just feel that. Not that he wasn't doing his job down there, of course, seeing Alligator Alcatraz. I think that's going to do some really cool stuff. But he wanted to get back and make this, usher this bill through, T.
No, absolutely. And it is the big story of the day. As we said, the ball is now back in the House's court as the clock ticks down towards that July 4th deadline to get the one big beautiful bill on President Trump's desk. A vote could happen as soon as today. Of course, one of the big outliers is getting everybody back to the U.S. Capitol in order to have a quorum to make that vote happen.
The yeas are 50. The nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
And with that, the measure passed in the Senate on Tuesday with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tie-breaking vote to get that measure over the finish line. 3 Republican senators, Tom Tillis, Rand Paul, and Susan Collins, voted against the measure, forcing the vice president to have to vote. Republican Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski voted for the measure, but is now encouraging the House not to vote on the tax and spending package and instead return it to the Senate. Quote, "My hope is that the House is going to look at this and recognize that we're not there yet." In the meantime, House Speaker Mike Johnson appears confident that this one big beautiful bill will soon be law.
We're estimating the average American will have an additional $10,000 take-home pay because of this. You will have no taxes on your tips and on your overtime. Seniors will get a reduction in taxes because of a credit they'll have, those on Social Security. There's something in this bill, literally, as the president said today, for everyone. It is great policy and is going to help the economy, help the American people, and fulfill the promises of the America First agenda.
And back at the White House, President Trump is raising the prospect of a 60-day ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. He brought it up Tuesday in a social media post saying that Israel had agreed to a deal to stop the fighting. Hamas reportedly saying it's open to reaching an agreement as well, but any initiative must clearly lead to the complete end of the war. A Hamas delegation is scheduled to meet with mediators from Egypt and Qatar today in Cairo to discuss the proposal. Posting on X, Israel's foreign minister saying that a majority within Israel's coalition government support an agreement that sees the release of the remaining hostages held by Hamas in return for a ceasefire. We'll, of course, be monitoring this developing story for you throughout the day. And the University of Pennsylvania does an about-face, or rather a backstroke, when it comes to allowing transgender women to participate on its women's sports teams. The university also removing the records that Leah Thomas set en route to winning an NCAA Division I national championship in swimming. Thomas is a former UPenn swimmer and the first transgender woman to win an NCAA D1 title. The Department of Education found that Penn violated Title IX by allowing Thomas to join the women's swim team. The university now has to award Thomas's titles to the next place finisher and personally apologize to each impacted swimmer. There's no word yet from the NCAA about whether it will rescind Thomas's 2022 championship. However, the organization has since banned transgender women from participating in women's sports. That's a quick check of your headlines. Now let's get you back over to David.
Okay, T. Bates, appreciate it. Now to the big news of the day, a closer look at the next steps in getting Trump's big, beautiful bill over the finish line and straight to the president's desk to be signed by Friday. That would be July 4th. For reaction and expectations of what will play out exactly, let's welcome to American Sunrise the new senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media. That would be Carrie Lake. Carrie, great to have you on the show. So, what is your take on this big, beautiful bill that's in the House right now? I mean, literally, it's going on as we speak. This is like herding cats, basically. Good luck with all of this, if you will.
It is, but we have a president with a very clear America First agenda. The people want this, and I think they're going to make it happen. And I actually believe they'll do it by that deadline. We want to see an incredible 4th of July where the people of this country can finally exhale and know that they will be keeping the Trump tax cuts. They'll have more money in their pocket to spend. And the Trump agenda, which is all about, as one of the biggest parts of the agenda, has been securing the border and deporting people who are here illegally. The money will be there to do that. I believe once this takes part and once this starts to take effect, we are going to see our economy boom. People will have more money to spend. We will have fewer people here illegally, and we're going to see the prices of everything go down. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think they're going to make it happen.
Carrie, most people think of you and, of course, think of Arizona. You have since, though, moved to Washington, D.C. as part of your new duties. Last week, you faced off against House Democrats about Voice of America. What do you think the VOA needs to do, or why do you think it needs to be shut down? And part two to that question, do you really feel, given all the opposition, at least from the outside looking in, it looks like there's been opposition, that you've really been able to get off the ground with your new duties, that you've really been able to start getting to work like you'd like to?
I think I have, actually. I'm really proud of the work that I've been able to accomplish at this agency. President Trump put out an executive order calling for this agency to be boiled down to its bare minimum, basically what's statutorily required, the stat min, as they call it, statutory minimum. And so we've kind of shrunk things down to what is absolutely required by law. And starting in next fiscal year, which starts in October, he's calling for the elimination of this very corrupt agency called U.S. Agency for Global Media. So I'm in there effectuating what the president has asked for. I work for the president of the United States, and I represent the hardworking taxpayers of America. And the hardworking American taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for a global media outlet that should be putting out a positive story about America, but is actually putting out positive stories about the CCP and negative stories about America. It's been known to hire spies from countries that are enemies of America. And the way they're spending the taxpayer dollars on anything but what they're supposed to be doing, it's obscene what they've been doing. President Trump's right to eliminate this agency, and then we can carve out the little things that might be worth saving, and I think we should put them under the Department of State, where frankly the last time Voice of America was doing an effective job of telling America's story in alignment with our national and international basically policies and agenda was when it was under the Department of State, when there were some guardrails there to prevent it from going pro-CCP or pro, anything but America. And that's what we're working to do.
Carrie, fun little fact that I'm not sure I've ever even told you is that when I first started working for Real America's Voice, it was just called America's Voice. And I asked President Trump if I could come to the White House and talk to him about it. So I did. I went to the Oval Office with him and discussed this. John Solomon and I made our pitch for what we saw as our vision for Real America's Voice. We were rebranding at that point from America's Voice to Real America's Voice because I kept hearing President Trump kind of confuse Voice of America with America's Voice. And obviously those things were not related at all. But it was confusing at the beginning, and thus we rebranded to Real America's Voice. And President Trump definitely knows the difference at this point. But it was confusing, and the things that America's Voice was doing, Voice of America rather, here I just did it, were destructive to this nation. And President Trump called on you, one of his most trusted, I'm going to say friends, right? And to come in and to upend this and reinvent this whole thing. So what is your vision for what's left, Carrie? What do you want to do next?
Isn't it amazing? What a great name, Voice of America. Unfortunately, they haven't been telling the true story of America and putting our best foot forward to the world. This is an outlet that only puts out news to the world. It's not meant for people here in America. It's to push out what America is about and America's story to the world. And they haven't been doing that, partially because they even said it. They Trump-proofed the agency. They made it to where there's an editorial firewall. So if I were to see them putting out truly anti-American propaganda, which they have in the past, I couldn't pick up the phone call in my position overseeing the agency and say, stop doing that, because they could sue me for a editorial firewall breach. And, you shouldn't have an outlet where there's nobody who can control what editorially they're putting out, especially when you find out they're putting out things that are not good for our country. So I believe that what the president has called for, which is to eliminate the agency, is the right thing to do. Right now we have Radio Marti, which is based out of Marathon, Florida, Office of Cuba Broadcasting, and they're still broadcasting to the people in Cuba, and will continue to do that. That's statutorily required. We are broadcasting to the people in Iran and Afghanistan as well, also Mandarin. We have a Mandarin language service as well. So we've really shrunk this down. But Gina, frankly, I don't think doing 1990s style TV, which is kind of where they're stuck, and doing radio is reaching the people of this world. We need to modernize. A simple tweet or X post can go much further than a 1 hour long archaic 1990s style TV program.
Well, listen, here's what I know. If Carrie Lake is in charge of doing it, it's going to be pro-American, it's going to be taxpayer savvy, and it's going to be efficiently delivered and effectively spoken. So, Carrie Lake, just God bless you in that continued mission. I know you will slay at this, and we're just looking forward to seeing what you do.
Thank you. And thanks for the great work that you are doing there and getting out a message about this great country. You really are telling America's story to Americans who are just so hungry for fair news that that people can just stomach and listen to. And you guys do a great job every single morning.
Thanks, Carrie. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thanks, Carrie. Take care.
All right, guys, as Independence Day approaches, so does the self-imposed deadline to get this big, beautiful budget to President Trump to sign. We are headed to Capitol Hill to see if that is going to happen or not. This and more as American Sunrise continues. Don't go away.
Welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm American Sunrise contributor Emily Finn. It's great to have you with us this morning. Time now to drain the swamp, or more appropriately, the swimming pool, as we flesh out transgender swimmer Lia Thomas and her past winning records and titles. They're now worthless. The University of Pennsylvania announced yesterday that it is reversing its trans athlete policy. The school has decided it will no longer allow transgender women to participate on its women's sports teams. It also removed the records of Thomas, who is a former student. Thomas was the first transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division I title back in 2022. The decision is part of a deal the school made with the Department of Education to abide by bans on transgender athletes in women's sports. The Trump administration threatened to withhold $175 million in federal funds unless the school barred transgender athletes from the sports programs. Let's bring in Dr. Gina Terrence and David for more here. David, do you think this is a fair decision? I know Riley Gaines has got to be celebrating this.
It's definitely a fair decision. And by the way, it's William Thomas, not Lia Thomas, and it's him, not her. So let's just be clear about that, okay? Yeah. I know we said her past and we said Lia Thomas. That is not true. No, right. I mean, let's see this, but this, Gina, I got to get to you quickly on this because I'm sure you have a lot to say. But this is what not just the left does, but words matter. Words matter. And if you win the language battle, you win the culture war. And I'm telling you, when we get to, and I've done it too. I get sucked up into it. I go, I'll talk about Lia Thomas, and I'll go, yeah, I mean, she was really bad. I'm like, wait, not she, he. And so I've done it. So I'm guilty of it too. But my point is that this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to suck us up in this. And I know I'm not really kind of talking about the actual University of Pennsylvania decision, but I just felt it was important to clarify. This is William Thomas, who, if you go to the Wikipedia page of air quote Lia Thomas, it never mentions William Thomas. It never mentions that she was a he. And so my point is that this is what they're trying to do, trying to change the language and change the narrative. And we need to hold them not just accountable, but we need to be truth tellers. And that's the truth. Now, this might be, quote, her truth, and I put that in air quotes, her truth, but it's not the truth, Dr. G.
Mic drop, well said. I don't really have anything to add, T.
Yeah, I don't even want to follow that because she did drop the mic. I will just add this. It's a little too late, for UPenn to be doing something. They should have been doing this at least back in February when the NCAA said that it wasn't going to allow transgender athletes. And it's kind of funny to me. It's weird, but it's transgender female athletes. Like, it shouldn't be transgender athletes, period. Whether you're female, like, you should, in my mind, participate in the sport of your natural birth, of your birth gender, but that's a whole nother issue. But I think this is just too little and too late for the University of Pennsylvania. They should have acted well before now, and it shouldn't have taken a threat from the Department of Education to inspire it.
Very well said there, Terrence. All right, coming up, your money, the markets, and common sense. Hold on to your hard-earned cash and be in the know on what is happening as we await the stock market opening bell. That's coming up next as American Sunrise continues.
York City. Yes, we're going to be taking you here live in just a little bit as we get you ready for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It's set to ring here in about 7 minutes. I can tell you pre-market trading not looking so hot. The Dow, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are all down. Gold, silver, and crude oil, however, are up. Again, we'll take you there to the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange here in just a few minutes. But now, let's get you over to David Birdie.
Thank you, T. Bates. Appreciate it. All right, turning now from the market to your wallet. Join us now to talk about that and the coming jobs report, food sales, cars, so much more. Wow, we're going to talk about a lot. American Sunrise Early Edition host and the man behind Jake's Takes on Substack, that would be Jake Novak. Jake, always good to see you at this time every day on American Sunrise. All right, so where do you want to begin? I don't know. You choose. You're in charge. I'm not. Trust me, I'm not in charge.
I want to talk about jobs, David. You know, I mean, the job market has been treading water for a number of months right now. We had some good months. We had some meh months. Tomorrow is going to be the big June jobs report. The next time I see you on this hour in this program, David, we'll have that big reveal. We'll know how many jobs, net new jobs were created in the month of June. Now, they're expecting a net gain of 115,000. That would be a big jump from about the 39,000 or so we had in May. That was a really weak month. But, you know, even with our population growth in this country, we don't have the greatest birth rate. Most people agree, want to see 200,000 net jobs created every month we call it a strong jobs market. But, David, if we get another weak number, then the pressure on Jay Powell to lower interest rates, because, by the way, that's a big reason why companies sometimes can't hire people. You know, there are companies all the time that have to borrow money every once in a while to make payroll. So if those interest rates go down, they might be more willing to do that and hire more people. If we don't get a strong number tomorrow, David, then Jay Powell is going to be under even more pressure to cut rates, and he'll have to come up with some other excuse.
Yeah, if he's even around at this point. Who the heck knows when that hammer is going to drop for sure. All right, let's move on to cars. I heard the word Jaguar in our break. Why don't you take it away? Oh, you're laughing. Please, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Jaguars, please.
Okay, I'm going to have some positive news for you in a second, but yeah, let's start with Jaguar. Now, remember this crazy, weird ad? I showed it on my program. I'm sure you guys did too. This was the big ad that Jaguar rolled out a few months ago for their big rebranding. Okay, not only was it weird, it looked like an updated version of HR Puffin stuff. All you Gen Xers out there, you know, hit me up on Twitter about that. But hey, it didn't show any darn cars. So I have a crazy number for everyone to contemplate. Jaguar, the whole company, sold 49 cars in all of Europe in April. Just 49 cars. I mean, they might as well not exist. That is a 97.5% drop from April of 2024. This company is in serious trouble. And the ad agency that came out with this ad ought to be fired. That's for darn sure. But good news, by the way, for Ford, up 14.2% for the middle quarter from April through June, and Hyundai and Kia. Even when all those experts said, oh, the foreign car makers and even Ford, they're going to get killed by the tariffs, Hyundai and Kia had all-time records for that same period. So if you're not Jaguar, you're probably smiling this morning. But again, I had to say that number one more time. It's not a typo. You didn't mishear it. 49 car sales in all of Europe. Incredible.
That's just like mind-blowing if you think about it. Talk about going woke will make you go broke, right? That whole thing. Wow. All right. Food sales. I teased it, so I guess I should ask you about this. What's going on with food sales? I don't know what to ask you about that.
I want to tell you about something that's going on. So, you know, inflation has been cooling. President Trump's policy is working pretty well for that, but we're still a little bit sticky, especially when it comes to beef prices. Beef prices were up another 8.6% in May. We'll see what the June number is. We didn't really get the beef number yet. So Walmart is deciding to take this out of the middleman's hands. They started a big beef processing and cattle ranch situation in Kansas. That's a good place to have a beef plant, I would say. And they're going to see if this cuts prices significantly to about 600 stores in the general Midwest, western region of the country. If this works, David, they'll do it elsewhere. So Farmer Brown Walmart will be coming maybe to a town near you. Look, I mean, if this works, it works. The problem is, of course, again, interest rates. I hate to go back to this. I hate to be so boring about Jerome Powell, but farmers, even big farms, they're some of the biggest borrowers in the country. And if they can't borrow money to meet certain requirements that they have, then you're going to see fewer of their products, whether it's produce or whether it's beef. And even Walmart is affected by this. So again, I got to get back to interest rates here, because if they get lower, we're going to see lower prices in some other parts of our economy as well.
I've got 20 seconds, but the White House suggesting that this Jerome Powell and interest rates, he's cut them before. He won't do it now. They suggest it's political. You think so?
Yeah, I mean, he cut them when inflation was higher back in the fall. So why won't he cut them now? And he's saying it's tariffs. Scott Besson, our Treasury Secretary, says Jerome Powell has tariff derangement syndrome. That's a new term.
Yeah. All right. Jake Novak, great to have you on the show as always. We'll see you tomorrow. The same bat time, same bat channel. I just always date myself when I say that. Then again, I never say that. But thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Boy, he's smart. I approve of his brain. Let's head back to Terrence in Denver now for the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. I approve of Terrence, and it's all sponsored by AMAC.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
We're less than a minute away from the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. It is set to ring here in short order. I can tell you that pre-market trading has been up and down already this morning. As you can see, the Dow is now up. It's in the green. About 6 minutes ago or so, it was in the red. The other major indices are in the red at the moment. The applause is underway, which means the bell is going to ring here in short order. And then we'll get an idea of how the markets are officially looking as this day of trading officially gets underway. Again, the applause underway there. And now you have the bell, ladies and gentlemen, which means the markets are officially open. The onlookers are ready to go. And just like that, remember I said it's going to be an up and down day? Well, you just saw green on the board, and now it looks like the Dow is flat, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ in the red. The good news is that precious metals, gold and silver, as well as crude oil are up right now. So if that's something that you're investing in, it looks like you're probably going to have a fairly decent day if it continues that way. And just like that, it looks like the Dow is now back down in the red. So we'll continue to monitor all of this for you throughout the day. We're also just days away from what's been dubbed the Rio Reset. It's the greatest threat to the U.S. dollar's global dominance in over 80 years. On July 6th, BRICS nations, which include Russia, China, India, Iran, and many more, are expected to unveil their plans to circumvent the U.S. dollar, thus cratering its value. They've already been laying the groundwork as their central banks have been methodically divesting from the U.S. dollar and U.S. bonds in favor of gold. So, how can you protect your IRA or your 401k from the fallout from this landmark shift? Well, you may want to consider diversifying with gold from the Birch Gold Group. Historically, gold has been a safe haven in times of high uncertainty, which is right now. So get a free information kit on tax-sheltered gold IRAs by texting the word America to the number 989898. July 6th marks a monumental shift that's happening among nations that control 1/3 of the world's GDP. Arm yourself with information to diversify your retirement savings by texting the word America to the number 989898 and claiming your free information kit from the Birch Gold Group. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Elon Musk says if the big, beautiful bill passes, he'll form a new political party to shake up the status quo and to give power to the people. We'll tell you what he's up to. That's ahead.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping.
welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. G. Thanks for joining us this morning. We invite you to join in our conversation on Getter and Rumble, and it is time now to take the political pulse of America. The beat today goes a little something like this. Billionaire Elon Musk expressing his disdain with the Senate passing the big, beautiful bill, suggesting it is time for a new political party in America. Musk now vowing to form the America Party so, quote, people actually have a voice. In a post on X, Musk writes, our country needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican uniparty. Let's bring in Emily and David and Terrence because we want to discuss this. You guys, here's the thing. All kudos to Elon for what he has done. I mean, Doge is needed. We know that. Spending is out of control. There's no doubt about that. But this points again, I believe, David, to his political, his entree right into the political world, where he really doesn't understand the history, really doesn't understand the depth, because the idealistic idea, if you could say that together, of a third political party, while it always sounds nice, like a lot of things sound nice, like term limits sound nice in my opinion, like communism sounds nice when you first learn about it, when you really look at the political roots and the history and the efforts to start a third political party, it's idealistic. It doesn't work. Why is that, David Brody?
There's a lot of reasons for it, but I think it's rooted a lot in just the framework of our history. We have political parties that have been around for a while, and that while they've changed at times, obviously, it's very deeply rooted. It's hard. I mean, there's a brass, there's a matrix, there's a framework in place, and once people get power and once people get entrenched in positions, it's very hard to dissolve that. So I applaud kind of the spirit of what he's saying. But if he's talking about America's party, well, then I don't know. Let me think. Oh, MAGA.
MAGA.
He's talking about MAGA.
Thanks. Yeah.
Right? So what is this America's party? So in a way, it was kind of a diss at MAGA. So, MAGA's not America's party. Of course. Look, this bill is not great. It's good in so many ways, and it needs to pass based on the fact that tax reform and the immigration and all of that, energy. But there's problems with this bill, okay? So, welcome to life. Welcome to life. You know what? Life is messy. And, here's the thing. It's kind of the same argument, T, with the pure isolationist crowd from a foreign policy perspective I have. You can go and be dogmatic about something, but at some point, it's time to vote. And at some point, it's time to get down to business. And you might not like everything they're doing, but at some point, you got to do it. It's like your child, right? I mean, you might like 65% of something they do on one day, but you love them 100%. I mean, what are you going to do, teammates?
Yeah, I agree with some of Elon Musk's criticism of this one big beautiful bill. As you said, it's not perfect. I think even most lawmakers who are going to vote for the bill will tell you it's not perfect. And I also understand where some of Elon Musk's concerns come from, particularly having headed up Doge, having sponsored so many different measures in order to save the American people money and to find fraud, waste, and abuse. And now he sees the government and this one big beautiful bill abusing the taxpayer dollars of America with its mass spending. But I must say, I get the impression, Emily, that for Elon Musk, a lot of this idea of founding a new party is rooted in him wanting to influence more policy, in him wanting to have his fingerprint on the federal government and what happens in government. And I'm not so sure that comes from a place of truly wanting the best for the American people. It might come from a place of selfishness. That's my impression. It may not be the case, but that's my impression, Emily.
Sure. It could certainly come from a place of selfishness. Parents. I mean, he says that he wants to donate a ton of money to all of these to people that are primarying these Republicans that voted for the big beautiful bill. I mean, he's a billionaire. He's allowed to spend his money however he wants. That's America. So if he wants to support candidates that
are going to go against this big, beautiful bill, then that's his prerogative, I suppose. I think it's just the only reason we're talking about this is because of how much money he has, and he does have influence. So if he uses that in a way to, kind of split MAGA, create a different kind of MAGA party, people are going to definitely be watching for that.
Absolutely. Emily, we are having some audio issues there with your microphone, but I think she made some great points, Dr. Gina. I'd love to get your perspective on that, Dr. Gina, maybe selfishly on my own part, but we talked early on about Elon Musk, and I think you and I were somewhat on the same page in terms of concerns about how the relationship between him and President Trump was ultimately going to work out, and more importantly, how much he was going to try to be president as opposed to allow President Trump to be president. How do you see this this idea of him starting a third party, and what the influence or the motivation behind that might be, Dr. Gina?
Well, to be completely honest, Terrence, I see it as divisive, and I don't think he intends it to be divisive. I want to say that. I believe that Elon Musk is learning politics at a breakneck speed. Baptism by fire is what he encountered. We all remember the images of him with a dark MAGA hat, standing on the stage, jumping for joy at the things President Trump was doing. Where is that sentiment, is my question for Elon today. I appreciate what he's done with X. I appreciate what he's done for the First Amendment. I appreciate what he's done for cost cutting and Doge. Appreciate the help he gave pulling MAGA over the line. I don't think you can discount all of that. I don't think you can all of a sudden say, but you know what? People are complicated, Terrence, right? There's good and there's bad, and I try to see both in everybody, right? If I see the bad and it seems dominant at the moment, I try to remember the good as well, and try to think where their heart and their, here's the word, always comes down to this for me, judging their motivation. What is his motive? I believe Elon's motives are basically sincere, but I believe he's politically naive. I believe he's an absolute neophyte politically, and he needs to sit back and keep his mouth shut and learn for a minute before he jumps in right full throttle and gets out in front of his skis again. And I believe that's what he's done, and I don't believe it's ill intention. I believe he has a personal beef with some of Trump's closest staff, not cabinet, but staff. And those people are not elected, and those people are not front and center out there. And I think that those problems needed to stay right within the confines of the personal relationships that he had, David, not the political, not the public. I think that's where he's misstepping, and I'm afraid it's going to bite him and his message, right? Because the American public is not going to stand for this. They see this as political novice, and they don't like it, and they don't want it out there in front, because once again, the biggest problem with the Republican Party has and always will be, I'm afraid, the difference between circling wagons that the Democrats do so well and circling fire that the Republicans seem to always fall into, David.
Yeah, look, he's a free speech absolutist, but there's a difference between being a free speech absolutist and a disciplined free speech absolutist. And he doesn't have the discipline at this point. I mean, look what he just did yesterday on X. We haven't talked about it. We'll talk about it now. He said it's time for Steve Bannon to go back to prison. I mean, he was talking about Bannon going back to prison. I mean, we haven't talked about that today. We haven't made that a story, but that's out there on X. I mean, he's just shooting from the hip. I mean, this guy needs to settle it down. The stuff that he's saying is just like ridiculous at times. So, and not that any of us are letting him off the hook, but we should definitely not let him off the hook for some of the stuff that he has said. And also, there is a difference between Make America Great Again, the MAGA slogan, and Make America Rich Again. And I think there's a big difference between what Elon Musk is saying and what Steve Bannon is saying. You know, Bannon wants to make America great again because it comes from within, right? It comes from the fabric of this country. Elon Musk, coming from South Africa, being an oligarch, coming as an entrepreneur, coming as a guy that's really smart and has all this money, ultimately had all this money, he sees it as a more of a, if America can be prosperous and rich, then America will be just wonderful. It's not so much about the culture, it's not so much about the fabric of the country, it's about the money behind it. And we saw that play out with the H-1B visa situation between Bannon and Musk. And I just think that's an important distinction to remember here.
Yeah, I think there are different intelligences, and certainly Elon has his own intelligence, but there's street smarts too. And
Yes.
that's where you got to clue in sometimes. And sometimes these billionaires who are super smart in one basket just don't have the street smarts. All right, this month, Tax Network USA proudly celebrates our nation's birthday, honoring freedom, resilience, and financial independence. To mark the occasion, they're offering 10% off all services through July 4th. So if you're dealing with back taxes or missed the April 15th deadline, don't wait. The IRS is rapidly stepping up enforcement. Penalties can add up quickly, up to 5% per month, maxing out at 25% of your total tax bill just for not filing. So that's on top of what you already owe. But there's good news. Tax Network USA can still help you turn things around. Whether you're self-employed, run a business, or your books are a complete mess, their team knows how to cut through the chaos and find solutions that work. Your consultation is free. Getting ahead of the problem now could help you avoid harsh penalties, wage garnishments, or surprise bank levies. Take the first step. Call 1-800-905-8000 or visit tnusa.com/RAV. Don't forget, you'll get 10% off of all services through July 4 as part of their celebration for our nation's birthday. Regain control of your finances with expert help from the Tax Network USA. Coming up, Americans not too happy with Democrat leadership in Congress. We are breaking down the latest poll, finding a majority of voters disapprove of the job Dems are doing. That and more as American Sunrise continues. Stay tuned.
It's almost Independence Day, and all of America will be celebrating. But here in Real America's Voice, we want to celebrate you. Every day from June 30th through July 4th, we're giving away a handcrafted, hand-painted hardwood flag to one lucky RAV viewer. These beautiful flags come from YourAmericanFlagStore.com, where 10% of every purchase goes to Your American Flag Foundation. Scan the QR code to opt in for your chance to win and receive future RAV promotions from our hearts for your home. Use code RAV for free shipping. Let's spill some tea.
Welcome back. I'm American Sunrise contributor Emily Finn. Let's spill some tea, sponsored by Artillery Tea Company. Make sure to go to artilleryteaco.com and use the promo code America's Tea for 25% off your first order. Artillery tea is all natural, whole leaf. The tea bags are chemical free, and each tea bag can be used twice. Artillery Tea Company is family and veteran owned and operated, and a portion of your purchase goes to help veteran and first responder charities. Make sure to go to artilleryteaco.com and use the promo code America's Tea for 25% off your first order. All right, time now to spill some tea. And in the cup today, a new poll finds the majority of Americans disapprove of the job Democrats in Congress are doing. The latest Marist NPR PBS survey finds 58% of registered voters are not too thrilled with congressional Democrats' leadership. The numbers following a recent slew of polls indicating the same unfavorable views of Dems in Congress. Let's bring in Dr. Gina, David, and Terrence for more here. David, you are there in D.C., there in the swamp. Not a surprise on this one either.
No, not at all. There's no doubt about that. There's not much really to say about it. I don't even know where to even begin. But, G, let's take it over to you on that one.
Well, this doesn't bode well for them in the midterms, most especially if President Trump gets this big, beautiful bill passed, and it really explains them wanting to change the name of the big, beautiful bill, because they are trying everything they can to grasp at every straw they can grab, Emily and Terrence, to try to diminish any credibility for the Trump administration as we do look ahead into the midterms, Terrence. But I'm curious because, Terrence, you're always talking about what happens in the midterms, what implications there will be from various behaviors in Congress. And here you have a blatant example of that and the response by the American public.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many tentacles to this particular angle of the story. I want to start with what have the Democrats done? I think that's where you have to start. And I would argue the only thing Democrats have done is push back against everything that the Trump administration has tried to instill. That has been their entire platform since President Trump took office. Whatever President Trump comes up with, we're going to push back against it. We're going to criticize it. But they haven't really offered any alternatives. They haven't offered any ideas of their own. I think we start there. And then moving forward to the midterms, I think you make a great point, Dr. Gina. The Democrat Party in general has to come together. There's no real guidance. There's no platform. There's no leadership. The leadership within the party itself is in flux right now. There's infighting. It's a party in disarray. And that doesn't bode well for any party that's trying to win an election or at least trying to win a majority in the House or the Senate. It just doesn't seem to be in the books, or as President Trump likes to say, it's not in the cards.
You know, as they flip through this B-roll of them, you realize the Democrat Party really is a freak show. It's a clown car. It's a Star Wars bar scene over and over again. These people are not the American people.
No, and that's been the problem all along. It's been a disconnect. We saw that in 2024, right? They're throwing out all this anti-common sense stuff, and Trump comes along and says it's time for a common sense revolution. So there's that. And then as it relates to the story that Emily was talking about, I mean, look, Congress is just not popular to begin with, number one, but Democrats for sure are even less popular, but they're also in the minority. And when you're in the minority, you're going to have worse numbers typically. Typically, you'll have worse numbers. You would think it would be in the majority because those are the people that are either not getting things done or are held responsible. But I think in this case with Democrats, their numbers are worse because there's a base of people out there, and I'm talking about Democrat voters specifically, who want to see Democrats do more and push back more against the Republicans. So I think that factors in to some of the negative feeling about Democrats in Congress. I think that's factored in a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that the Democrats definitely realize that this narrative, this anti-Trump, really not getting anything done, not really addressing policy, but just attacking Trump narrative isn't working for them. I don't think that that's going to continue on. You called this guy Hitler, as he was campaigning, and now you're less popular than he is. All of these Democrats in Congress, obviously it's not working. They really have to come to the table and start doing things that are going to make the American people's lives better. Great discussion, you guys. We want to know what you think. Let us know on Rumble or Getter. Hop on and let your voice be heard. Still to come, a pregnancy announcement at a Florida woman's birthday party shocks her family. The sweet moment when everyone realized there was some big news written on her birthday cake. That's when American Sunrise returns. We'll be right back.
Sunrise. I'm Dr. G. Thanks so much for joining us today. Time now for my favorite part of the show, personally, Sunny Side Up. In the pan today, a Florida woman's birthday party leaves her family in tears of joy because of an extra special announcement on her birthday cake. You have to see this sweet moment. Rachel Miller and her husband Ben decided to surprise their family in Orlando, Florida, with some big news. Rachel is expecting. Now, as everyone was singing happy birthday in harmony at her party, Ben walked in with the cake and waits with a smile for everyone to notice the message spelled out in the icing. Take a look.
Dear me.
Well, I'm going to let someone else take it over now because I'm definitely tearing up over that. So sweet. There's nothing sweeter in the world than babies. And I just love the way they gave her such a gift for her birthday. David Brody, you know this feeling. You have grandchildren. None of the rest of us here do. And so tell us about that feeling that we're seeing there on screen.
Well, I was just about to say that, Gina. You're right. I've experienced that twice now, and it's a feeling you can't really describe. Honestly, it's so trite, right? You can't describe that feeling, but it's really true. You can't describe the feeling. It's a feeling that doesn't feel like you're a parent or any sort of like it's. How do I explain it? It's like you're going to be this grandparent. And you're just like, well, wait a minute, there's a whole different level of excitement because, I don't know, maybe just because it's carefree and there's no strings attached and no responsibility and it just feels amazing. It's just like, wait, I'm going into this whole... Yes, you can send them home and get back to Netflix at 8 p.m. after you send them back, yes. But no, they're wonderful. And those moments are great. Wow. Wow. I didn't articulate